West Virginia's hills are steep, the valleys deep, and the nights long. Some towns perched on these hillsides hide secrets the living dare not speak aloud. Figures are seen walking along deserted streets at twilight. Whispers echo across forests, blending with the howl of the wind. Visitors report sudden chills, ghostly lights, and shadows that move against logic. The hills themselves seem alive, watching and remembering. In these places, the past never dies, and the living are never truly alone. Hello friends, and welcome. Today, we are venturing into the haunted hillsides of West Virginia, where history and mystery intertwine. From small mountain villages to abandoned mining towns, each settlement carries tales of tragedy, unexplained phenomena, and lingering spirits. The locals whisper of sightings, shadowy figures crossing the roads, apparitions in abandoned homes, and voices carried by the night wind. Some towns are known for one particular spirit that appears after sunset. Others are haunted by multiple presences that refuse to leave. Every hillside has a story, and every valley holds secrets that the daylight cannot reveal. If you had the chance to explore one of these haunted towns at night, would you dare to walk the streets alone? Or would you heed the warnings of those who vanished before you? Share your answer in the comments below, because tonight, we journey together through the most haunted hillside towns of West Virginia, where sightings are common, and the living are never truly alone. Thurmond, once a bustling railway town, now rests quietly along the tracks. Its streets nearly empty and its buildings standing as silent witnesses to a forgotten era. The town retains the echo of its past, and visitors often sense the weight of its history as they walk along deserted avenues and gaze at structures left to the elements. The railway station, once the heart of Thurmond, is now a place where time seems suspended. Platforms are empty, yet the feeling of anticipation lingers. As if the trains that once brought life to the town continue to pass through, unseen and unheard by most. Figures are sometimes glimpsed along the platforms, moving slowly, pausing as though checking schedules or awaiting passengers who never appear. These shadows walk in silence, vanishing when approached, leaving behind the faint impression of life continuing in the spaces abandoned by the living. The combination of fog, dim lighting, and the rhythm of imagined footsteps creates an atmosphere where the past feels vividly present. Walking through Thurmond streets, one notices the subtle traces of daily life once abundant here. The wooden sidewalks creak beneath careful steps, and empty storefronts seem to hold the memory of voices, laughter, and movement that filled the town long ago. Shadows linger at the edges of vision, and faint echoes of footsteps follow visitors as if the town itself remembers each traveler who ever passed through. The railway lines stretching beyond Thurmond contribute to its ethereal quality. Tracks gleam in the moonlight, leading into darkness, suggesting journeys that continue even after the town has nearly vanished from daily life. Whistles carried on the wind evoke a sense of anticipation, blending with the whispering of the trees and the distant murmurs of unseen presences. The station and its surroundings become a living memory, a place where the energy of the past refuses to fully dissipate. Visitors often describe sensations that go beyond sight and sound. A sudden chill may pass over the skin, as if invisible hands are brushing by. Or a fleeting feeling of being watched intensifies when the mind is still. These experiences are subtle, never violent, but they underscore the sense that Thurmond is not empty, merely inhabited by those who exist on another plane of time. Buildings along the main street tell their own stories. Weathered facades, peeling paint, and boarded windows hint at lives once vibrant within. Doors may shift slightly on their hinges without wind. And shadows pass across windows, creating the impression that someone is moving just beyond reach. The town seems to preserve these echoes, allowing glimpses of daily routines that no longer occur in the present. Night brings an intensified sense of mystery. Street lamps flicker in the gentle breeze. And the long shadows of empty buildings stretch across the streets. The whistle of phantom trains, distant and haunting, resonates through the town. These moments create a cinematic experience, where the atmosphere itself tells a story of anticipation, absence, and memory. Of anticipation, absence, and memory. Visitors exploring the railway station find themselves drawn to the platforms and tracks. The space is quiet, yet alive with the sense of motion, as if unseen passengers are still boarding and disembarking. Shadows move with purpose, bending and pausing along the platform edges, creating an interplay between perception and imagination. Each step through the station evokes the rhythm of a town that continues to live in memory. The streets of Thurmond offer similar encounters. Walking along the deserted avenues, visitors hear faint footsteps echoing from doorways and alleyways. Sometimes, a shadow crosses the path just out of reach, vanishing when the observer turns. These subtle occurrences give the impression that the town itself watches over its history, preserving fragments of life in a delicate balance between presence and absence. Thurmonda's landscape, surrounded by hills and old railway embankments, enhances its atmosphere of quiet suspense. Figures appear and disappear among the trees, and the distant echo of unseen trains weaves through the hills, reinforcing the sense that Thurmond remains alive with memories. The railway tracks serve as both literal and symbolic pathways. They extend into darkness, inviting imagination and reflection. Visitors report hearing soft rumbles and whispers along the lines, sensations that suggest movement just beyond human perception. The town seems suspended in time, where past journeys continue to unfold alongside the stillness of the present. For those who explore Thurmond, the town becomes a narrative itself. The interplay of shadow and architecture allows for a connection to those who explore Thurmond. The town becomes a narrative itself. One that blends history with the unseen and fleeting. Shadows combine to create an immersive experience where visitors feel a connection to those who once lived, worked, and traveled here. Even during daylight, the town retains a quiet mystery. Empty buildings and streets seem to breathe, and the faint impression of activity lingers in the corners of vision. Figures are sometimes glimpsed along the tracks or near the station, moving with deliberate slowness, as though performing routines that no longer belong to the living. Thurmond remains a place where memory and presence coexist. The abandoned railway station, the empty streets, and the lingering shadows create an atmosphere that is both haunting and cinematic. Visitors are drawn into a narrative of anticipation, absence and reflection, experiencing a town where the past is never fully gone, and the echoes of life continue to whisper across time. As night deepens, the town's quiet power becomes most apparent. Footsteps resonate in empty corridors. Shadows appear on the platform edges, and the whistle of trains that never arrive carries through the mist. Thurmond is a place where history lingers, where presence endures, and where visitors can feel the weight of memory in every step along the streets and tracks of this near-abandoned town. Harper's Ferry stands at the confluence of the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers. A town steeped in history and shadowed by the echoes of battles long past. Its cobblestone streets wind along steep hillsides, past brick buildings, and old warehouses that have witnessed centuries of human endeavor and turmoil. The air carries a stillness that seems heavier than ordinary, as if the land itself remembers the bloodshed that once scarred it. As dusk falls, the town transforms. Shadows stretch across streets and alleyways, merging with the mist that rises from the rivers. Visitors have reported seeing figures in old military uniforms, moving with purpose along the riverside or pausing at street corners as if observing the town. They appear briefly, then vanish into the fading light, leaving only the impression of presence and the whisper of history lingering in the air. The sounds of the past are said to be audible to those attuned to the atmosphere. Faint gunfire echoes from the hillsides, rolling down the valley in bursts that cannot be traced. The rhythmic pounding of marching feet seems to emerge from nowhere, moving in time with shadows that drift across walls and riverbanks. These phenomena are not violent in their intent but evoke the intensity and sorrow of a time when the town was a battleground, a place of strategy, courage, and loss. Historic buildings lining the streets hold stories in their walls. Warehouses that once stored ammunition and supplies, homes of townspeople who watched the conflict unfold from their windows. And small churches that offered sanctuary all contribute to the sense that the past is never fully absent. Windows flicker with shadows of figures moving within, as if the daily life of Harper's Ferry continues parallel to the present, invisible to the untrained eye but tangible in sensation. Walking along the riverside, one may feel the weight of history pressing subtly. The waters themselves seem to carry a memory, reflecting the twilight sky while hiding layers of the past beneath their surface. Figures appear on the opposite bank, silent and still, dressed in period uniforms, their eyes fixed on the town. The wind carries sounds that resemble shouted commands, orders moving through time and space, blending with the natural rustle of leaves and water. Street corners and hilltops hold particular energy. Observers often pause at these locations, sensing that events once pivotal in the town's history are replayed invisibly. Footsteps follow along narrow alleys where soldiers once advanced or retreated. Shadows cross thresholds and stairways in moments that seem real yet impossible to fully grasp. The experience is disorienting, leaving a lingering sense of connection to those who inhabited the town centuries ago. Old barracks and encampments, now reduced to foundations or overgrown plots, continue to exert influence over the present. Swaying in the darkness, casting light on the contours of uniforms and faces frozen in time. But deeply moving, a reminder of lives lived, courage displayed, and sacrifices made. Along the hillsides overlooking the town, sounds of cannon fire sometimes ripple through the air. The noises are brief yet precise, as though the valley itself reverberates with memory. The blending of sound, shadow, and landscape creates a cinematic scene, where the past and present intertwine seamlessly. Visitors often describe a sense of being watched, not with malice but as if the town and its former inhabitants are acknowledging those who enter and bear witness to their history. Even in quieter moments, Harper's Ferry holds its mysteries. Alleyways empty for decades may host the movement of unseen figures. Faint marching steps, the snap of a musket, and the murmur of voices rise and fade, blending with the natural sounds of evening. Every corner of the town, every slope of the hill, and every riverbend carries echoes of the lives and struggles that have defined the area for generations. The town's bridges and crossing points are also charged with memory. Figures appear on these structures, pausing mid-step, and vanish when approached. The rivers that have witnessed so much history reflect the soft glow of twilight. Yet beneath their calm surface lies the weight of countless stories. The experience of walking these paths is immersive. creating a deep sense of respect for the lives that unfolded here, and the turbulent events that shaped them. As night deepens, Harper's Ferry becomes a tapestry of past and present. The figures in uniform, the echoes of footsteps, the whispers of commands, and the phantom gunfire create a narrative that is palpable yet ethereal. Visitors often leave with a lingering awareness that they have glimpsed more than scenery or history. They have witnessed the persistence of memory itself, woven into the streets, hills, and waters of this historic town. Harper's Ferry is more than a place of historical events. It is a living testament to the human stories of courage, fear, and perseverance. Every building, every hill, and every riverbank serves as a silent narrator of the past, inviting those who enter to observe and reflect. The town's atmosphere, heavy with echoes of battle and the quiet presence of former inhabitants, ensures that Harper's Ferry remains an unforgettable experience, where the boundary between the present and the past is never entirely distinct. Walking through the town at dusk or night, visitors carry with them impressions of figures moving along streets, the soft murmurs of commands, and the distant crackle of gunfire. The experience is immersive and profound, revealing a connection to history that is tangible in every shadow, every sound, and every corner of the town. Revealing a connection to history that is tangible in every shadow, every sound, and every corner of the town. Inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. A sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Harper's Ferry endures as a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. A sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. At the persistence of the past within the present. Within the present. Harper's Ferry endures as a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. As a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. A sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Within the present. Harper's Ferry endures as a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. As a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. A sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Within the present. Harper's Ferry endures as a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. As a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. A sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Within the present. Harper's Ferry endures as a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. As a place where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Where memory lingers, inviting reflection, respect, and a sense of wonder at the persistence of the past within the present. Pocahontas Town sits quietly among rolling hills, a remnant of an era defined by industry and labor. Once a thriving mining community, the town now lies abandoned, its streets empty and buildings slowly succumbing to time. The rusted remains of machinery and weathered wood structures stand as silent witnesses to decades of toil, prosperity, and eventual decline. By day, the town appears deserted yet peaceful, the sunlight casting long shadows across cracked sidewalks and overgrown yards. But as evening falls, a different energy emerges. Visitors often report sudden chills that sweep through the air, especially near the entrances to the old mines. The temperature seems to drop without warning, leaving a sense of unease that lingers long after the initial sensation. The mines themselves are the heart of Pocahontas' mysterious reputation. Figures dressed in work clothes have been seen standing at the darkened openings, motionless, watching the world beyond. When approached, these apparitions vanish, leaving only the echo of footsteps and the faint metallic scent of old tools. The presence of these figures suggests a lingering memory of the laborers who spent countless hours underground, their dedication to the mines echoing across time. The town's main street is lined with structures that hint at a more vibrant past. A once bustling general store now sits with broken windows and sagging shelves, yet in the evening, some visitors sense a fleeting presence, as if someone is arranging goods that have long since rotted. Visitors sense a fleeting presence, as if someone is arranging goods that have long since rotted. Wooden chairs outside homes occasionally rock slightly, though the wind is still. Wooden chairs outside homes occasionally rock slightly, though the wind is still. The creak of a door swinging on its hinges can be heard without any human touch. Walking through Pocahontas, the atmosphere is thick with history. Each building, each path, tells a story. Ghostly figures have been spotted near the schoolhouse, where the laughter of children once filled the air. At night, faint voices are said to drift from the empty classrooms, fragments of songs and lessons long forgotten. The town holds on to these echoes, preserving the memory of its former inhabitants in subtle, almost tangible ways. The surrounding landscape contributes to the haunting ambience. Hills roll gently away from the town, dotted with remnants of mining equipment and piles of stone. Fog often settles into the valleys during the early evening, obscuring the paths and deepening the sense of isolation. Within the mist, visitors sometimes glimpse fleeting shapes moving along old tracks or across open fields, disappearing as soon as they are noticed. Pocahontas' abandoned homes further enhance the spectral feel of the town. Windows darken the streets like hollow eyes, and visitors report seeing movement inside that cannot be explained. Chairs shift, doors click softly, and the faint smell of smoke can linger in houses long cold. Even in the stillness of night, there is a rhythm, a pulse that suggests the presence of those who once called the town home. The mines themselves remain a focal point for encounters. Some visitors have described hearing the faint clatter of pickaxes striking rock. The echoing of voices calling out to one another from deep underground. It is as though the essence of the town's laborers has become woven into the very walls of the mine, repeating their daily routines in ghostly imitation. Pocahontas also preserves the memory of community gatherings. In the central square, where festivals and fairs were once held, a subtle sense of movement can be felt. Shadows of townspeople walking together have been seen, pausing near old benches or around the empty well. These glimpses are fleeting, but they hint at the human presence that shaped the town for generations. The energy is neither malevolent nor threatening, only insistent. A reminder that memory lingers where life once thrived. Even the natural world seems connected to the town's lingering spirits. Birds circle overhead, their calls echoing across empty streets in the early morning, while the rustle of leaves carries faint, indistinct murmurs. Trees sway in patterns that suggest the outline of human movement, and a soft breeze often carries the scent of earth and coal, linking the environment to the industry that once sustained the town. Visitors who explore Pocahontas town often leave with a profound sense of connection to the past. The combination of visual apparitions, unexplained sounds, temperature changes, and the overwhelming presence of history creates an immersive experience. Every step along the streets, near the mines, and through the abandoned homes becomes a journey into memory, a walk alongside those who built the town and watched it flourish. Pocahontas stands as a testament to the passage of time. A place where history refuses to be forgotten. Figures in work clothes appear and vanish. Whispers echo through empty structures. Chills trace the paths once traveled by miners and townsfolk. The town's silence is deceptive, carrying the weight of lives lived, struggles endured, and the persistence of human presence long after the buildings have aged and decayed. Exploring Pocahontas is an encounter with a living memory. A place where the energy of the past permeates the air. The town continues to tell its story to those who listen. Through subtle movements, fleeting shadows, and the quiet rhythm of the abandoned streets. In every glance down a deserted lane, in every sound carried by the wind. Visitors are reminded that Pocahontas Town, though empty of its living residents, remains alive in the stories and spirits it has left behind. Louisburg is a town steeped in history, its streets lined with brick buildings. Its streets lined with brick buildings that have witnessed centuries of life, laughter and sorrow. The charm of its historic inns and theaters draws visitors from far and wide. But beneath the warmth of gas lamps and the quiet charm of cobblestone streets lies a presence that few can fully explain. Locals speak quietly of encounters with those who never truly left. Patrons and performers who continue their routines long after the buildings have emptied. Walking through the main streets at dusk, the town seems to hold its breath. Shadows stretch across the walls, shifting with the fading light, and the scent of old wood and candle wax fills the air. Inside the theaters, once lively with applause and music, there is a profound stillness, yet the faintest sounds of activity linger. Music drifts from empty rooms, the soft notes of a piano or the laughter of an unseen audience, as though rehearsals continue in some unseen dimension. Visitors often describe fleeting glimpses of figures in period clothing, moving along hallways or pausing at balconies. A performer appears, tuning an instrument or adjusting a costume, only to vanish when approached. In the grand lobbies of historic inns, ghostly patrons have been seen lingering near reception desks or sitting in chairs long abandoned. Cold spots form in unexpected corners, as if the air itself carries the weight of memories. The theaters of Louisburg hold particularly compelling stories. Some witnesses hear the rustle of velvet curtains and the soft shuffle of shoes across wooden stages when the halls are entirely empty. Music and laughter echo in patterns that feel familiar, as if the past is replaying itself for those willing to listen. Shadows dance in the corners of rooms, and the occasional flicker of light suggests someone unseen passing by. These occurrences are gentle yet persistent, offering both intrigue and a reminder that the town is alive in ways beyond the ordinary. The inns contribute their own mysteries. Rooms long closed carry the scent of bygone days. And travelers report the sensation of being observed. Footsteps tracing the edges of hallways. Or doors opening slightly without wind. Guests have felt invisible hands brush along their shoulders. Or the warmth of a presence sharing the room. Fleeting but undeniable. Yet remain embedded in the structure itself. Even the streets of Louisburg tell a story. Late at night, shadows move beneath the lamplight. Sometimes taking the shape of figures from another era. The cobblestones seem to respond to footsteps not belonging to the living. And faint laughter drifts from alleyways where no one walks. The town's history is tangible in these moments. Each sighting and sound connecting the present to the people who built, performed, and lived here centuries before. In some of the smaller, forgotten venues, the effect is even more pronounced. A dusty stage may suddenly carry the sound of applause, or a mirror reflects movement where no person stands. The atmosphere is heavy with anticipation, as if the town itself expects its stories to be witnessed. Visitors report a heightened awareness, a sense that every corner and floorboard may reveal something beyond the ordinary, something that connects them to Louisburg's rich past. Even during the day, echoes of these presences remain. Locals sometimes feel chills while walking past shuttered windows, or hear muted laughter in empty halls. The town's historic inns seem to vibrate with stories. And the theaters hold on to the essence of performances long concluded. Every creaking stair becomes a reminder that Louisburg has layered itself with memory. A place where history and the paranormal coexist in subtle yet profound ways. At night, the experience is heightened. Street lamps cast pools of golden light on brick facades, while shadows lengthen and merge into shapes suggestive of long-ago lives. The faint clatter of stage equipment can be heard, followed by laughter and music fading into silence. Guests report feeling the presence of someone standing nearby, observing their reactions, or guiding them through corridors lined with old photographs and faded playbills. Louisburg is not a place of fear, but of fascination. It offers a window into history that is alive, persistent, and ever-present. Whether it is the echo of footsteps in an empty hall, a fleeting shadow across a balcony, or the faint strains of music drifting from forgotten stages. The town invites those who walk its streets to listen, observe, and experience a living history where the ordinary and the extraordinary merge seamlessly. To explore Louisburg is to step into a space where time is fluid, and memory inhabits every brick and beam. The inns, theaters, and streets whisper of lives once lived and the enduring presence of those who remain. Every visitor leaves carrying the sense of having walked alongside history, glimpsed figures from another era, and felt the subtle, persistent energy that defines Louisburg as a place where the past is never truly gone, and the unseen continues to watch, guide, and entertain. White Sulphur Spring stands as a monument to both elegance and sorrow. A town whose grand resorts rise against the rolling hills, carrying echoes of lives and stories long past. Once a destination of leisure and social gatherings, the resorts now exude a quiet melancholy, where time seems to fold upon itself. And every hallway and courtyard holds a memory of those who once filled them with laughter, conversation, and the occasional sorrow. Walking through the main resort buildings, visitors immediately sense a presence that is both intangible and pervasive. Long corridors stretch into shadows, their polished floors reflecting the faint light from windows and chandeliers that sway gently in the wind. Their polished floors reflecting the faint light from windows and chandeliers that sway gently in the wind. Figures are sometimes glimpsed moving in the distance, pausing at doorways or peering from the edges of staircases, disappearing before recognition is possible. Pausing at doorways or peering from the edges of staircases, disappearing before recognition is possible. Disappearing before recognition is possible. These fleeting impressions give the impression that the past has not entirely departed, that the energy of former guests lingers, preserved in the architecture and the atmosphere itself. That the past has not entirely departed, that the energy of former guests lingers, preserved in the architecture and the atmosphere itself. That the energy of former guests lingers, preserved in the architecture and the atmosphere itself. Preserved in the architecture and the atmosphere itself. Courtyards, once places of sunlit leisure and gatherings, now feel haunted by stillness. The sound of wind rustling through trees mixes with the occasional echo of footsteps on stone paths, though no one is in sight. Visitors describe sensations of being followed by an unseen presence, whispers brushing against the ear, indistinct murmurs that seem to carry fragments of conversation from decades or even centuries ago. Each step through the town reinforces the feeling that White Sulphur Springs exists simultaneously in two worlds, the present, visible and tangible, and the past, invisible yet intimately alive. The guest rooms of the resorts tell their own silent stories. Doors creak open slowly on their own, and windows rattle gently with no external cause. Some visitors have felt the sense of someone sitting or standing just beyond the field of vision, a subtle pressure that fades when confronted directly. These experiences are never threatening, but they are unmistakable, a reminder that the lives once lived here continue to echo through the halls and corridors. The grand ballrooms, once filled with music and dancing, now hold only faint traces of their former vibrancy. Visitors have reported hearing soft strains of piano or the distant rhythm of a waltz, drifting through empty rooms as though rehearsing memories of a long-forgotten evening. Shadows glide along walls and ceilings, moving with a grace that mimics past revelers, yet dissolve when approached. The combination of sound and movement evokes a sense of a time paused, where the joyous and the tragic coexist in quiet equilibrium. Outdoor spaces contribute to the town's haunting aura. Figures are sometimes seen near fountains, pausing as if mid-conversation, only to vanish when visitors draw near. Courtyards that once hosted laughter and leisure now feel as though they are stages for memories replaying endlessly, for guests who never truly left. The ambient sounds of night are the rustle of leaves, the distant call of nocturnal birds blend with faint whispers, creating an immersive soundscape that is both eerie and captivating. The surrounding hills and natural features enhance the mysterious atmosphere. Mist drifts along the slopes in the early hours, curling around resort buildings and cloaking pathways. Within the mist, shapes seem to emerge and retreat, creating the impression of movement just out of reach. Visitors describe sensations of being watched, a subtle tension that accompanies exploration of both indoor and outdoor spaces. The town's geography amplifies the sense of isolation and timelessness, making the experience of visiting deeply immersive. White Sulphur Springs also bears the weight of individual tragedies. Some guests have reported feeling sudden chills, or glimpsing figures in old attire who seem burdened by sorrow. The whispers that drift through hallways often contain fragments of phrases, as though unfinished thoughts or conversations echo from another time. Even when the rooms are empty, the sense of unseen observation remains, reinforcing the impression that the town's past inhabitants linger, reluctant to move on. Daylight does little to dispel the town's presence of memory. The grand architecture, with its stone facades and wrought iron details, casts long shadows even under the sun. Windows catch glimmers of movement where none exists, and reflections on polished surfaces sometimes reveal shapes not present in the physical space. Visitors report feeling a strange duality. The beauty and history of the town are undeniable, yet the faint pressure of unseen presences suggests that these halls hold more than just aesthetic charm. As evening falls, White Sulphur Springs becomes increasingly atmospheric. The fading light stretches shadows across courtyards and along corridors, accentuating the sense of depth and mystery. Faint sounds of conversation, footsteps, and music become more noticeable. And figures occasionally appear in windows or at the tops of staircases. The interaction of light, shadow, and sound creates an immersive experience that feels cinematic, where visitors become part of a narrative shaped by both memory and imagination. Shaped by both memory and imagination. The town's abandoned wings and long-forgotten rooms offer further encounters. Dusty furniture and faded portraits stand as reminders of life once vibrant here. And the faint traces of movement suggest that those lives continue to leave an imprint. Visitors report feeling small touches, like the brush of a hand or a subtle shift in air pressure, reinforcing the idea that the past is never entirely absent. That echoes of former guests linger in both seen and unseen ways. In every part of White Sulphur Springs, from its grand ballrooms to its courtyards, from hallways to gardens, there exists a persistent connection between the present and the past. Ghostly figures, whispers, and faint sounds of music and movement create a layered, immersive narrative. Visitors walk through spaces alive with memory, where the stories of those who came before are preserved not in history books, but in the very air, stone, and wood of the town itself. The stories of those who came before are preserved not in history books, but in the very air, stone, and wood of the town itself. White Sulphur Springs is a place of subtle hauntings, where time folds, and echoes of life are perpetually present. For those who visit, the town offers an experience of mystery, history, and reflection, a place where the past continues to whisper, and the presence of those who never checked out lingers in every corridor and courtyard. Raynell lies quietly along the bends of the river. A town shaped by the relentless force of water over the decades. Its streets, once vibrant with the flow of daily life, now bear the marks of devastation. Bridges are partially collapsed, their timbers twisted and blackened. And riverbeds carry remnants of past floods, silent witnesses to Naturia's fury. As twilight settles, the atmosphere of Raynell shifts. A cool mist rises from the river, curling along the streets and alleyways. Shadows stretch across the ground, moving with the subtle sway of the evening wind. Shadows stretch across the ground, moving with the subtle sway of the evening wind. Visitors have reported seeing figures near the old riverbeds, standing motionless for a moment before vanishing into the fog. Their presence is fleeting, almost like a memory of the lives that were affected by the floods that changed the town forever. The whispers begin softly, barely audible at first. They seem to echo from the ruined bridges and along the water's edge, calling out to travelers to leave. No source is visible, and yet the words carry urgency, weaving through the mist and settling on the skin like a cold breath. It is as if the town itself is speaking, reminding those who enter that Raynell is not merely a place, but a vessel for the stories of loss and survival embedded in its landscape. Walking along the cracked sidewalks, visitors notice subtle movements in the periphery. Shadows shift along abandoned houses. And the wind carries the faint sound of running water where no river flows. Figures appear near corners, then vanish as one approaches. These glimpses are unsettling yet hauntingly beautiful, echoing the resilience of the town. And the lingering traces of the people who lived through its tragedies. The riverbanks hold particular energy. Trees twisted by floodwater stand as silent sentinels, their roots exposed and bent toward the sky. Some visitors have reported seeing figures perched among the branches or standing at the water's edge, staring toward the town with an intensity that seems both protective and mournful. The past and present converge here, creating a sensation that time has folded upon itself, leaving echoes of the lives that the floods irrevocably altered. Night deepens, and Raynell becomes shrouded in mist and shadow. The old bridges groan under the weight of memory, and the collapsed structures along the river seem to breathe with a quiet life. Whispers grow slightly louder, weaving with the rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of the water. Some say the voices are warnings, others feel them as stories being told, fragments of lives interrupted by tragedy and the ever-present force of nature. Strolling through the town, visitors can feel the weight of the past pressing gently upon them. Footsteps that seem to follow, shadows that dart across empty streets. And figures that appear just beyond the corner of vision. Create a cinematic experience of immersion and reflection. Each detail of Raynell's landscapia from the broken bridges to the riverbeds carries memory, reminding visitors that this town is more than abandoned structures. It is a living record of endurance and sorrow. This town is more than abandoned structures. It is a living record of endurance and sorrow. End. In the center of Raynell, where the river once surged with fury, the energy is strongest. The whispers here are more insistent, mingling with the sounds of the night. Some travelers describe hearing cries of struggle, laughter interrupted by sudden silence. And the quiet determination of those who refuse to be forgotten. Old homes along the outskirts hold their own stories. Windows are darkened and doors hang slightly ajar. Yet figures can be glimpsed moving behind the glass. Or standing silently in the shadows of porches. The effect is subtle but profound. giving the impression that Rainelia's inhabitants never truly left. And that the town continues to hold space for them, preserving the memory of every flood, every loss, and every moment of resilience. The remnants of the old town infrastructure serve as anchors for these echoes. Bridges that span the river, though weakened and broken, still carry a sense of presence. Timbers that have shifted with time seem to hum faintly with the memory of feet that once crossed them. Figures appear here more frequently, their movements almost ceremonial, as if retracing steps that have been repeated countless times in the spirit world. Visitors often feel a tangible shift in the air as night deepens. The mist thickens, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and river water. Shadows lengthen and merge, figures appear at unexpected angles, and whispers become a chorus of caution. The experience is immersive, drawing one into the history of Rainel as if walking alongside those who lived through its trials, witnessing their persistence and the marks they left upon the land. Rainel is a town defined by memory, where the force of water has shaped more than geography. Where the force of water has shaped more than geography. It has shaped the collective spirit of the place, leaving traces of tragedy and resilience in every corner. Visitors cannot help but sense the presence of the past, from the ghostly figures along the riverbeds to the warnings carried on the wind. The experience is both haunting and reverent, a reminder of the enduring power of history and the ways in which memory can inhabit a landscape. Walking through Rainel at night, one feels the interplay of shadow, mist, and whispering voices. Figures appear and vanish, footsteps echo without source, and the river seems to murmur stories of lives altered by floods. The town holds its history openly, yet with subtlety, leaving an impression of a place that is alive with memory, ever present, and eternally watching. Glen Jean rests quietly among rolling hills and dense forests, a town shaped by its coal mining past. The air carries the weight of history, tinged with the faint scent of earth and stone, reminders of the labor that once defined this place. Buildings stand weathered and worn, their walls bearing silent witness to decades of toil, ambition, and eventual abandonment. During the day, Glen Jean seems peaceful. Sunlight glints off broken windows and rusted metal structures, illuminating cracked sidewalks and overgrown paths. The coal elevators loom in the distance, their skeletal frames casting long shadows across the landscape. Yet beneath this calm exterior, the town holds a presence that cannot be seen in daylight alone. As evening descends, a different character emerges. Visitors report seeing ghostly figures near the old coal elevators, drifting silently along the perimeters of abandoned buildings. They move with purpose yet vanish when approached, leaving behind only a sense of lingering energy. The shadows appear and disappear as though the past has momentarily stepped into the present, replaying moments of labor and life long gone. The abandoned buildings themselves are full. Doors creak open with no wind, and footsteps echo across empty halls. Occasionally the clang of tools or the distant rumble of machinery fills. Sounds that suggest the miners are still at work deep within. The memory of the town, creating an eerie rhythm that lingers even when silence returns. Walking through Glen Jean, the atmosphere is thick with remnants of human activity. The general store, once the hub of commerce, now stands quiet and decayed, yet some visitors sense a presence arranging objects on the shelves. Chairs shift in empty dining areas, and staircases groan as if bearing invisible weight. Every corner of the town seems to hum with the echo of lives once lived, offering subtle glimpses into the world of those who shaped it. The coal elevators dominate the landscape, their skeletal structures both imposing and haunting. Here, the energy of labor is most palpable. Shadows of miners have been reported moving across platforms, appearing to check equipment or carry out tasks long since obsolete. The sounds of coal carts rolling and pickaxes striking rock occasionally pierce the evening air, unaccompanied by any living person. It is as if the town itself refuses to let go of its history, replaying moments of human effort in a spectral loop. The surrounding environment adds to the haunting ambience. Within the mist, fleeting shapes have been seen moving along old tracks, disappearing before they can be fully observed. Forests encroach upon the edges of town, their branches swaying in patterns that seem to mimic human motion. Even the homes of Glen Jean carry traces of the past. Windows reflect movement where none exists, and visitors report cold drafts sweeping through rooms with no open doors. The faint scent of coal and smoke lingers in the air, tying the structures to their former inhabitants. In the quiet of night, whispers seem to float down hallways, fragments of conversations that belonged to miners and their families, preserved within the very walls. The town's open areas, including the central square and former recreational grounds, reveal another layer of lingering presence. Shadows of townspeople walking together, tending to daily routines, or pausing near benches have been spotted by those willing to observe closely. These glimpses are brief but evocative, suggesting that memory and energy remain rooted in the spaces where life once thrived. The abandoned machinery tells its own story. Rusted wheels and gears stand frozen in time, yet some visitors have heard them creak or turn with no visible force. The echoes of industry mingle with the natural sounds of wind and wildlife, creating an environment that feels alive despite its emptiness. It is in these moments that Glen Jean reveals itself as more than a ghost town. It is a living memory, a place where the past lingers in every sight, sound, and sensation. Exploring Glen Jean is a journey into a layered history, where the physical remnants of mining meet the intangible echoes of human activity. The ghostly figures, the sounds of tools and machinery, and the shifting shadows. All serve as reminders of a community built on labor, resilience, and connection to the land. Visitors often leave with a sense of having witnessed more than empty structures. They experience a town that continues to breathe through the memories of those who walked its streets and worked its mines. Glen Jean, with its coal elevators, abandoned homes, and spectral miners, stands as a testament to the passage of time. The town carries the weight of its history in subtle movements, fleeting sounds, and the persistent energy of those who once lived and worked there. Each visit offers a glimpse into the past, an encounter with lives etched into the very fabric of the town, reminding us that even in stillness, the echoes of human endeavor endure. In Glen Jean, the past is never far from the present. Ghostly figures appear and vanish, the clang of tools resonates through the night. And cold drafts remind visitors of a time when the town was alive with effort and purpose. It is a place where memory is tangible, where history moves just out of reach, and where the spirit of the town lingers, offering a haunting, immersive journey for those who enter its quiet streets and abandoned mines. Ansted is a quiet town nestled on a hillside, where the rolling landscape hides layers of history and untold stories. By day, it is serene, with winding streets and quaint homes. Yet as night falls, the town seems to shift, and the faint glow of lanterns moves slowly through the mist, as if carried by unseen hands. There is a stillness in the air that feels heavy, laden with memory and the weight of tragedies long past. Visitors who wander the streets after dusk often report feeling watched, a subtle pressure that follows them through alleyways and across empty squares. Shadowy figures appear and vanish, flickering at the edges of vision, leaving an eerie impression of life that refuses to fully depart. The fog that rolls down the hills accentuates every silhouette, every faint movement, transforming the familiar streets into a labyrinth of uncertainty and anticipation. The history of Ansted is woven into its very stones. Once a bustling town shaped by industry and mining, it has seen more than its share of hardship. Accidents, misfortune, and sudden losses have left marks not easily erased. Those who have walked the streets at night speak of hearing distant cries echoing from corners where no one stands, The sounds are soft, mournful, yet undeniably human, as if the town itself remembers the sorrows of generations past. Lanterns, seemingly held by invisible hands, drift slowly along the hillside paths. They appear in patterns that suggest movement and purpose, pausing at intersections, then continuing as if leading the way. Visitors sometimes follow, drawn by a mixture of curiosity and unease, only to find the lights vanish, leaving them alone in the dense fog. There is a rhythm to these occurrences, a sense that the town is communicating its history in ways that cannot be fully explained. The residential areas of Anstead carry their own quiet mysteries. Porch lights flicker, not with malfunction but with an unseen influence, and doorways sometimes creak open as if inviting visitors to step into the past. Cold drafts snake through hallways and rooms, brushing along arms and shoulders, while the faint echo of footsteps trails behind. Those who have stayed in the old inns describe a presence in the rooms, a lingering sense of lives once lived, moments once shared, and a reality that continues to brush against the living. The hills themselves seem alive with history. From elevated vantage points, visitors can see the soft glimmer of lanterns moving far below, tracing paths that may have existed for centuries. Trees sway in the wind, casting long shadows that mingle with those of the unseen, creating an intricate dance of light and darkness. The interplay of fog, hill, and shadow gives the town an almost dreamlike quality, where the boundary between the living and the departed feels fragile and permeable. Anstead's streets, once filled with the bustle of daily life, now echo with absence. Windows frame empty rooms, and doorways stand silent. Yet those who pay attention may sense movement in the corners of their vision. The figures are rarely fully visible, often glimpsed as dark shapes slipping across alleyways or fading into the mist. The effect is subtle but profound, leaving visitors with an acute awareness that the town's history continues to manifest itself in ways that defy simple explanation. Even the simplest sounds take on significance. The clatter of a falling branch, the creak of an old gate, or the soft drip of water from a rooftop can trigger the sense of unseen presence. Whispers seem to ride the wind, faint words that vanish before comprehension, yet leave a lingering impression of meaning. The town's atmosphere is immersive, wrapping around anyone who ventures through its streets, encouraging both awe and caution. The lanterns, the cries, and the shadowy figures all contribute to a sense of timelessness. Visitors often describe losing track of minutes or hours, as if stepping into Anstead is stepping out of conventional time. The town's energy is subtle, but undeniable, linking past and present in a way that feels tangible. It is not threatening, yet it is impossible to ignore, a constant reminder that history is alive and present in the night. Walking the streets of Anstead at night is to engage with a living memory. The fog, the hills, the shadows, and the lanterns all work together to create an experience that is both haunting and beautiful. Those who have visited carry the sensation with them, a sense that they have walked alongside the echoes of lives that shaped the town. Seen forms that refuse to be forgotten, and heard sounds that speak of loss, endurance, and the unseen layers of the world. Anstead is a place where history persists, where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and where visitors are invited to witness the lingering presence of the past. Each shadow, each flickering lantern, and each distant cry serves as a reminder that the town's story is far from over. It is written not only in books and archives but in the atmosphere itself, in the subtle movements that hint at what once was and what continues to exist unseen. To walk through Anstead is to be aware of more than just the present. It is to sense the weight of memory, the presence of those who came before, and the mysteries that continue to unfold with the falling of night. The town's hills, its fog, and its streets hold stories waiting to be discovered. And for those who venture carefully, the experience becomes an encounter with both history and the spectral echoes that define Anstead as a place of quiet wonder and haunting beauty. Bramwell sits quietly among the rolling hills, a town that once thrived on the wealth of coal mining. Its streets, lined with stately homes and grand mansions, now exude an air of stillness, a lingering memory of prosperity long faded. Time has left its mark on the buildings, their paint peeling and windows clouded, yet the remnants of wealth and ambition remain visible in the architecture and the sprawling layouts of the old estates. Walking through Bramwell, one cannot help but notice the eerie contrast between the silence of the streets and the stories that linger in the air. Visitors often report fleeting figures near the abandoned mansions, shadows that resemble miners at work, moving with purpose before fading into the twilight. These apparitions are rarely threatening, yet their presence is palpable, as though the spirits of the town's past residents continue to perform their daily routines even long after life has left these buildings. The mansions themselves hold the most compelling stories. Rooms once filled with laughter and conversation now echo with silence. Yet lights are sometimes seen flickering in empty windows. The effect is subtle at first, almost as if the buildings themselves are remembering their former occupants, replaying fragments of moments frozen in time. Walkways leading to the mansions are overgrown, and the rustle of wind through abandoned gardens can feel like whispers of the past, guiding visitors deeper into Bramwell's enigmatic atmosphere. Even the streets carry an unsettling sense of history. Cracked pavements and faded signage hint at the bustling life that once defined the town. Shadows stretch long as the sun dips below the hills. And in those moments of dusk, figures have been seen pacing slowly along alleyways, appearing and disappearing with the rhythm of an invisible heartbeat. Some claim to hear the faint echo of footsteps, or the subtle clinking of tools, as if the miners are still tending to their work in the darkness. Bramwell's mines, now silent and overgrown, are integral to the town's presence of memory. Trails leading into old shafts and tunnels are often shrouded in mist, and visitors report glimpsing silhouettes near the entrances, lingering in the shadows as if guarding the secrets below. The land itself seems to carry a weight of labor and loss, the echoes of long hours underground reverberating faintly through the night. Even the breeze through the hills seems to carry a whisper of songs sung by those who once toiled beneath the surface. The mansion's interiors enhance this sense of lingering life. Grand staircases lead to hallways where doors creak without cause. And doors creak without cause, and faint impressions of movement can be felt as visitors pass by. Furniture remains covered in dust, yet the layout of each room seems carefully preserved, as though anticipating a return of the families who once lived there. The play of light through cracked or stained windows sometimes casts shapes resembling human forms, adding to the impression that Bramwell is caught between the present and a vivid past. Nightfall deepens the town's mysterious ambience. Shadows grow heavier, and the faint glow of candlelight or lanterns appears in windows where no one resides. Visitors speak of moments when they felt a gentle presence at their side, or sensed a figure pausing at the edge of vision before dissolving into darkness. The sounds of creaking wood, rustling leaves, and distant murmurs combine to create an environment that is both haunting and captivating, inviting exploration while urging caution. The history of Bramwell is etched not only in its structures but also in its atmosphere. The coal wealth that once fueled extravagant lifestyles now serves as a backdrop for subtle hauntings. Figures resembling miners appear near the remains of old equipment, tracing familiar paths through overgrown yards and decaying courtyards. The flickering lights in empty windows suggest an enduring connection between the living and those who have passed, a spectral reflection of the town's industrious past. Visitors exploring Bramwell often describe a sensation of walking through a memory. Every building, pathway, and garden seems charged with the essence of those who once inhabited them. The town's past residents, whether miners, families, or caretakers, leave impressions that are not always visible, yet their presence is undeniable. Whispers of conversation, the soft sound of footsteps, and the glint of light in an abandoned room create a cinematic experience, immersing those who enter into a narrative suspended between history and haunting. Bramwell's mansions, with their detailed FAA section aids and expansive grounds, seem to hold an invisible audience. Figures have been observed in upper windows, watching silently, or moving through hallways where once only family members and staff walked. The effect is subtle but persistent, an invitation to consider the layers of life and labor that shaped the town. Even the overgrown gardens seem to participate, the wind moving through tall grasses and trees creating shapes and patterns that suggest movement, further blurring the boundary between the past and present. The wind moving through tall grasses and trees creating shapes and patterns that suggest movement, further blurring the boundary between the past and present. Despite its near-abandoned state, Bramwell retains a vitality unlike any modern town. It thrives not in commerce or population, but in the endurance of memory. Figures of miners, fleeting lights, and faint echoes all testify to a lingering energy that defies the passing of decades. Visitors find themselves caught in an intricate dance with history, navigating streets where the line between the living and the departed feels impossibly thin. Bramwell invites reflection on the impermanence of wealth, the enduring imprint of labor, and the mysterious ways memory inhabits space. Its abandoned mansions and quiet streets offer a hauntingly beautiful exploration of a town where prosperity once reigned, and where the echoes of the past continue to move, silently observed by the spirits of those who built its legacy. In every shadow along the streets, in every flicker of light through empty windows, Bramwell whispers its story. The town exists as both a monument to human endeavor and a subtle stage for the lingering presence of those who shaped it. For visitors who explore its quiet corners, Bramwell is not merely a town of the past, but a living memory, where shadows move, lights flicker, and the whispers of history never truly fade. Fayetteville rests above the New River Gorge, a town framed by cliffs and dense forests. The gorge cuts through the landscape, its steep walls echoing the passage of time and the weight of history. The area is known for its natural beauty, yet beneath the surface, the land holds stories of loss, adventure, and lingering presences that seem to haunt the trails and cliff edges. As twilight descends, the forest softens into shadow. Mist rises from the river far below, curling among the trees. Visitors walking the trails report the sudden feeling of being watched. A presence that shifts at the corner of the eye. Figures have been seen along cliff edges, motionless for a moment before vanishing into the gloom. Their appearances are brief but unforgettable, leaving a sense of tension and curiosity that lingers long after the moment has passed. Footsteps echo on empty trails, the sound distinct yet unexplained. Some hikers describe the feeling of being followed, hearing steps that do not belong to any living person. The natural sounds of the gorge, the wind through the trees, the distant call of a bird blend with these subtle echoes, creating an atmosphere both serene and unsettling. Shadows stretch across the paths, moving with the wind in a way that suggests life without form, a presence tethered to the land itself. The cliffs of Fayetteville hold a particular energy. Figures appear at the edges, sometimes glimpsed for only a moment, their clothing faintly resembling that of those who traversed these trails long ago. They stand silently, gazing across the vast expanse of the gorge, before fading into the mists. The effect is mesmerizing and eerie, a reminder that the land carries memory, and that the river below has witnessed generations of travelers, both living and unseen. Along the forested paths, subtle movements catch the eye. Shadows shift among the trees, sometimes following the curves of the trail, sometimes appearing near boulders and fallen logs. Visitors have felt cold brushes against their shoulders, the sudden chill that seems out of place in the warmth of the day. The sensation is fleeting but vivid, leaving a sense of being momentarily transported into another layer of reality, where the past and present intertwine. The sensation is fleeting but vivid, leaving a sense of being momentarily transported into another layer of reality, where the past and present intertwine. The sensation is fleeting but vivid, leaving a sense of being momentarily transported into another layer of reality, where the past and present intertwine. The new river itself adds a haunting rhythm to the town's energy. Its waters move with constant motion, whispering against the cliffs and rocks. At night, the sound of rushing water mixes with distant echoes, footsteps on paths that should be empty, and occasional glimpses of figures crossing the trails. Some say the river carries the spirits of those who walked the land before, lingering to watch over the gorge and the town that grew alongside it. Cliffside overlooks offer breathtaking views, but also a sense of isolation. Figures have been reported standing at these vantage points, seemingly unaware of the living observers nearby. Their presence is quiet yet powerful, their movements deliberate, often frozen for moments that feel longer than they should. The interplay of light, shadow, and mist transforms these overlooks into spaces where reality and memory converge, leaving hikers with a profound sense of awe and unease. As night deepens, the town itself seems to exhale. Streetlights cast long shadows, and the wind carries voices that may belong to the past. Figures appear along deserted roads, walking slowly as if retracing familiar paths. Footsteps echo on wooden walkways and trails. Sounds that vanish as quickly as they appear. The effect is immersive, drawing visitors into the history of Fayetteville, where each step on the trail resonates with centuries of human presence. The forest holds another layer of stories. Twisted roots and fallen trees seem to guide the movements of unseen figures. Shadows weave between trunks, sometimes forming the shapes of hikers or travelers, sometimes merely suggesting motion. Visitors describe the feeling of being accompanied without being touched. A subtle tension that grows with the fading light. The air carries a coolness, an awareness of those who came before, and a reminder that some paths are watched in ways that defy explanation. Fayetteville is a place where land, river, and memory intertwine. The cliffs, the trails, and the gorge itself are alive with echoes of the past. Figures appear and vanish, footsteps resonate on empty paths. And the presence of those who once walked these lands remains tangible. Visitors experience moments that feel suspended between reality and memory. Caught in the quiet tension of a town shaped by both natural beauty and unseen observers. Every trail, overlook, and forested path offers a glimpse into this hidden dimension. The whispers of footsteps, the sudden chills, and the glimpses of figures create an immersive experience that is both haunting and reflective. The presence of the past feels immediate, a constant reminder that Fayetteville is more than a scenic destination. It is a living story, where the river, cliffs, and forests preserve the movements and memories of generations. Walking through the trails at night, visitors sense the town's deep connection to the gorge and the river. The town's deep connection to the gorge and the river. Figures appear at the periphery, then vanish, leaving only the faint impression of motion. Footsteps echo along trails that have been walked for centuries. And the wind carries the subtle murmur of unseen travelers. Fayetteville's landscape becomes a canvas, blending history, memory, and mystery into a cinematic experience that lingers long after one leaves. Fayetteville is not just a town overlooking a gorge. It is a place alive with stories, where the past and present coexist in shadow, sound, and movement. Every trail, cliff, and riverbank holds evidence of unseen hikers, whispered footsteps, and the persistent presence of memory. The town invites visitors to witness these phenomena, to feel the weight of history, and to experience the unique atmosphere of a place where nature and the unseen intertwine, leaving an indelible impression that is both haunting and captivating. Marlinton sits quietly among dense forests and rolling hills, a town shaped by the lumber industry that once defined it. The scent of pine and damp earth hangs heavy in the air, a reminder of the work and lives that have long since passed. Buildings are weathered and worn, their wooden frames echoing the labor of those who built them and the tragedies that occurred within the surrounding woods. During daylight, Marlinton seems peaceful. Sunlight filters through the thick canopy of trees, casting dancing shadows across abandoned mills and empty streets. The forested paths that wind through the outskirts appear inviting, yet a subtle tension lingers, as though the land itself remembers the accidents and lives lost to the unforgiving work of logging. As evening descends, the town takes on a different character. Shadowy figures have been reported along forest trails, moving between the trees with a deliberate, silent presence. Visitors speak of glimpses of these forms disappearing when approached, leaving only the sound of rustling leaves and the faint creak of old wood behind. The air grows cooler, and the forest feels alive with unseen watchers, as though the spirits of the past are wandering once more. The remnants of logging equipment and abandoned cabins add to the eerie ambience. Saws, pulleys, and old carts stand frozen in time, yet some visitors claim to hear them groan and shift as if someone is still using them. The snapping of branches, often without visible cause, echoes through the forest, creating a rhythm that blends with distant whispers urging intruders to leave. It is as though the land itself speaks, warning those who dare to venture too close to the memories it holds. Walking through Marlinton, the forest seems to breathe around visitors. Trees sway in unnatural patterns, casting long shadows that stretch and twist along the paths. In the evening mist, fleeting figures have been seen moving along old trails, their presence fleeting but undeniable. The whispers carried by the wind are soft yet persistent, fragments of warning and caution that feel tied to specific locations within the woods. As though guiding travelers away from danger that may not be immediately visible. The abandoned cabins offer a glimpse into lives once lived, filled with tools, furniture, and the faint echoes of daily activity. Doors creak open or slam shut with no wind, and the floorboards groan under unseen weight. Visitors report cold drafts brushing past them, sudden changes in temperature that accompany the sense of being observed. These experiences blend with the natural sounds of the forest, creating an atmosphere where reality and memory intertwine seamlessly. The logging sites themselves are steeped in energy from the past. Axes once wielded with precision now lie dormant. Yet some report hearing the thud of blades striking wood. And the rhythmic pull of saws. These sounds appear to come from nowhere and everywhere, giving the impression that the forest is replaying moments of its history. Shadows of workers, dressed in clothing of decades past, have been seen climbing over logs and moving through the landscape, as though time has folded in on itself. The surrounding forest enhances the haunting environment. Mist curls along the forest floor, wrapping around the bases of trees and old stumps, obscuring paths and amplifying the sense of isolation. Wildlife moves quietly, the sounds of birds or rustling animals blending with the whispers and distant thuds, making it difficult to distinguish between nature and the echoes of human presence. Every step taken along the trails carries the weight of history, and each sighting, sound, or sensation deepens the connection to the town's past. Visitors often report a feeling of being guided or watched as they navigate Marlinton. Shadows appear at the edge of vision, seemingly moving in response to the observer. Whispers float through the trees, soft but urgent. The experiences are never threatening in a violent sense, yet they instill a profound respect for the lives that shaped the town and for the natural world that has reclaimed it. The logging equipment and abandoned structures tell stories without words. Rusted nails and splintered wood hint at accidents that occurred, while sagging cabins suggest lives interrupted. Shadows of workers climbing ladders or moving between structures add a human dimension to these silent artifacts, creating a vivid reminder that Shadows of workers climbing ladders or moving between structures add a human dimension to these silent artifacts, creating a vivid reminder that Marlinton's history is ever present and perceptible to those who venture within its bounds. Marlinton is a town defined by labor, resilience, and the ever-present memory of those who worked and sometimes perished in its forests. The shadowy figures, the snapping branches, and the whispers all serve as reminders of a living history that persists long after the mills have fallen silent. Visitors leave with more than images of abandoned buildings, they carry the impression of a town that continues to move and breathe through memory and energy. The forested paths, abandoned mills, and cabins of Marlinton are more than relics of the past. They are stages where echoes of life and work replay, where the spirits of those lost linger in familiar patterns. The town's atmosphere is immersive, steeped in both beauty and solemnity, offering a haunting yet respectful experience. Every corner holds a story, every shadow a fragment of history, and every whisper a connection to the souls who walked these trails long before the present arrived. Marlinton, with its dense forests and echoes of logging days gone by, remains a place where the past is never far from the present. Shadowy figures appear and vanish along the paths. Whispers warn travelers to tread carefully. And the remnants of human activity resonate with life long after the town itself has been abandoned. Thurman Junction is a place where the echoes of the past linger long after the trains have stopped running. The station sits quietly amid overgrown tracks, wooden platforms weathered by decades of sun, wind, and rain. Shadows move across the platforms, subtle and fleeting, taking the shapes of workers who once hurried to prepare trains and tend to passengers. The air is thick with the smell of old timber and iron, and the faint sound of footsteps seems to follow those who walk along the cracked boards. It is as if the station remembers the countless lives that passed through it, and those memories manifest in whispers and movements that cannot be explained by the ordinary. Visitors often speak of the uncanny sensation of being watched. Figures appear at the far ends of the platforms, only to vanish when approached. The chill of the night seems to intensify near the tracks, brushing against arms and shoulders. And the faint metallic echo of hammers striking rails can be heard without source. Each sound, each movement, carries the weight of history, blending the past and present in ways that unsettle and captivate simultaneously. The tracks themselves stretch into darkness, curving and disappearing into the surrounding forest. At times, the faint outline of a train can be seen in the distance, moving as if on schedule. Yet no engine exists, no whistle blows, and no steel wheels roll along the rails. Witnesses describe the approach of phantom trains, a subtle vibration through the ground. A subtle vibration through the ground, the distant rattle of cars, and the unmistakable presence of momentum that cannot be traced to anything tangible. The experience leaves a lingering sense of awe and unease, a reminder that the station carries memories too persistent to fade. The wooden buildings of Thurman Junction are equally enigmatic. Ticket offices, waiting rooms, and storage sheds stand in silence, their interiors coated in layers of dust and shadows. Doors creak open without wind, and windows reflect shapes that seem to move independently of the night. Some report hearing the faint rustle of uniforms, the soft murmur of voices, and the occasional clang of tools being set aside. These fleeting impressions suggest the presence of those who once inhabited the station, maintaining their routines beyond the boundaries of life. The station is not only a place of work but also a hub of emotion. Generations of travelers arrived with hope, fear, excitement, and sorrow. And the air seems saturated with their lingering energy. Footsteps echo with urgency along the platforms, carrying a rhythm that feels familiar yet impossible to track. Some hear the distant call of conductors issuing instructions, a voice that fades before it can be understood, leaving the listener to wonder if the sounds are memory or manifestation. At night, fog often descends upon Thurman Junction, rolling in from the surrounding hills and softening the outlines of the tracks and buildings. Within this mist, shadows gain definition, and the figures of workers and passengers seem more solid, more present. Lanterns that no longer exist flicker in the distance, moving in deliberate paths along the platforms, as though leading the way or reenacting routines long forgotten. Those who witness these apparitions describe an otherworldly beauty, tinged with melancholy and awe. Even the simplest moments can trigger the uncanny. A sudden gust of wind may carry the sound of a whistle, or the snapping of a branch may mimic the approach of a railcar. Visitors speak of subtle touches on the shoulder, the fleeting sensation of being guided, or gently warned away. The station's presence is pervasive, but it is not hostile. It communicates through movement, sound, and atmosphere, revealing fragments of its past in ways that defy simple explanation. The platforms themselves hold stories in every plank of wood. The faded paint and weathered beams are silent witnesses to the countless departures and arrivals that shaped the town. Shadows stretch along the boards, elongating in the moonlight, giving the impression of figures waiting for a train that never comes. The rails, cold and dark, seem to hum with residual energy, a subtle vibration that resonates through the soles of shoes and the bones beneath. Witnesses describe feeling the ground tremble slightly, hearing the distant clatter of cars, and sensing the momentum of a vehicle that is not there. Witnesses pause to watch as a train slowly materializes from the darkness, shadowy figures aboard moving with purpose. Witnesses watch in awe as the train's figures vanish moments later into nothingness. The experience is surreal, a bridge between the tangible and the spectral, leaving an indelible impression on those present. Walking through Thurman Junction is to encounter history in its most intimate form. Every board, every rail, and every shadow carries the weight of human experience. The station is not merely abandoned, it is inhabited by the essence of lives once lived, memories preserved in motion and sound. Visitors leave with more than photographs or impressions, they carry a sense of having brushed against the echoes of the past. Witnessing a place where history is alive and the spirits of laborers and travelers persist long after the final train has departed. Thurman Junction remains a testament to the power of memory and the endurance of presence. The fog-laden platforms, shadowy figures, and phantom trains tell a story that is ongoing, an experience that blends history and haunting into a seamless narrative. Those who walk the tracks at night are reminded that time here does not follow conventional rules, and that the station itself remembers, lingering in the space between what was and what continues unseen. Morgantown Hills rise quietly above the city, offering sweeping views of streets, buildings, and lights that stretch far below. The area has long been a place of reflection, where travelers and locals come to watch sunsets fade into night. Yet beneath the serene landscape, the hills carry an air of mystery, a presence that lingers quietly among the winding roads and wooded areas. Visitors to Morgantown Hills often speak of strange phenomena that seem to defy explanation. Along the narrow hillside roads, glowing orbs appear in the dark, hovering momentarily before vanishing into the night. These lights move with a purposeful grace, weaving through trees and brush, as though guiding or observing those who wander close. The orb's faint luminescence casts eerie shadows across the roads, heightening the sensation that the hills are alive with unseen eyes. Figures have also been reported walking along the roads, appearing and disappearing without pattern. Sometimes distant silhouettes are glimpsed in the corners of vision, vanishing when approached. They seem to follow no single path, yet their presence is unmistakable, a reminder that Morgantown Hills may be a threshold between the ordinary and the unexplained. The figures are silent, their movements deliberate, leaving a lasting impression on anyone who encounters them. The wind across the hills carries its own messages. Visitors describe hearing faint whispers that call names, soft enough to be mistaken for echoes of the mind. These sounds often come unexpectedly, stirred by gusts that sweep across the ridges and through the trees. The combination of wind, darkness, and the isolated roads creates a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something unseen is nearby, watching, and perhaps communicating. At night, the city lights below contrast sharply with the darkness of the hills. This juxtaposition amplifies the sense of isolation, making every step along the hillside feel weighted with the unknown. The glow of the city seems distant, almost protective, while the hills themselves become a place where shadows stretch long and the ordinary rules of perception are tested. Visitors often describe a heightened awareness, noticing details in the landscape that seem alive, moving with the rhythm of the unseen presence around them. Trees and brush line the roads, their branches stretching overhead to form natural corridors that both conceal and reveal. Shadows move across these pathways in ways that cannot be explained by moonlight or wind alone. Some report feeling a presence just behind them, though turning reveals nothing but darkness. The air seems charged, carrying a subtle energy that leaves an impression long after leaving the hills. The history of Morgantown Hills adds layers to the intrigue. Over the years, travelers, locals, and even researchers have shared accounts of unexplained sightings, each contributing to the atmosphere that now defines the area. Stories tell of figures lingering at the edges of vision, of lights that seem to guide or warn, and of voices that reach across time to touch the living. The hills have become a repository for these experiences, a place where human curiosity intersects with the mysterious. Exploring the hillside roads at twilight reveals the full effect of the terrain and atmosphere. As daylight fades, shadows lengthen and the hillside contours shift, creating shapes and patterns that spark imagination and wonder. The glowing orbs, whether natural or spectral, drift slowly among trees and embankments, their light reflecting faintly on the asphalt. Figures appear intermittently, pausing to observe before moving out of sight, leaving visitors questioning what they have seen. Sounds play a critical role in Morgantown Hill's enigmatic character. The rustling of leaves, the snap of a twig underfoot, and the distant hum of the city combine with whispers carried on the wind. Each auditory cue feels deliberate, almost purposeful, creating tension and anticipation as visitors navigate the winding roads. Even familiar sounds are imbued with uncertainty, taking on new meaning within the Hillsa atmospheric presence. The effect is both mesmerizing and unnerving. Every step forward feels like an entry into a world where time is fluid, where past and present might coexist, and where unseen forces leave traces of their existence. Visitors often report an intense awareness of the surrounding environment, a sensation that something is always just out of reach. Observing silently. Glowing orbs, shadowy figures, and whispers interact with the landscape in ways that challenge perception. Trees become sentinels. Rocks and embankments take on significance, and the roads themselves seem to guide or divert those who traverse them. Each experience is unique. Yet the consistent reports suggest that Morgantown Hills holds an enduring presence, waiting to be witnessed. The hills offer moments of beauty alongside the eerie. Sunrise and sunset reveal colors that paint the landscape with vibrancy, reminding visitors that this place is alive in many ways. Yet when darkness falls, the mystical elements dominate. Lights flicker, whispers carry, and figures move silently, creating a cinematic and immersive experience that lingers long after leaving. Morgantown Hills is a place where the natural world and the unknown converge. The interplay of light and shadow, sound and silence, presence and absence, creates a profound atmosphere. Visitors find themselves caught between awe and unease, navigating roads that offer both stunning views and enigmatic encounters. The interplay of light and shadow, sound and silence, presence and absence, creates a profound atmosphere. Visitors find themselves caught between awe and unease, navigating roads that offer both stunning views and enigmatic encounters. In every turn along the hillside roads, every rustle of leaves, and every faint glow of light. The whispers in the wind, the orbs drifting in the dark, and the fleeting figures all contribute to an experience that is haunting, beautiful, and unforgettable. The hills hold their secrets closely, inviting exploration, while preserving the mystery that defines them. leaving each visitor with the memory of a place where the ordinary meets the extraordinary. Beverly sits quietly along the river, a town shaped by history and shadowed by the events of the past. Its streets, lined with brick buildings and cobblestone pathways, carry the weight of centuries. The town transforms. Twilight brings a subtle shift in the air. Shadows stretch across the streets and alleyways, moving with the rhythm of the fading light. Visitors have reported glimpses of figures dressed in period uniforms, walking with measured steps along Main Street. They appear silent, their presence unmistakable, yet they vanish when approached. The sight is fleeting, leaving a sense of awe mixed with unease, as if the past has reached through time to remind the living of its enduring presence. Sounds of the town change as night falls. The breeze carries faint echoes of marching feet. A cadence that seems to come from nowhere yet resonates through the empty streets. Some have heard the distant crack of cannon fire. A sound that is both alarming and distant. As though it originates from the memories of the land itself. The effect is subtle but unmistakable. A whisper of history that turns ordinary streets into corridors of memory and reflection. The architecture of Beverly enhances this otherworldly feeling. Old brick buildings, their facades worn by decades of weather, seem to lean into the past. Windows catch the last rays of light, revealing shadows that do not belong to the living. On occasion, a figure can be seen pausing at a doorway or glancing down an empty street, their posture rigid and deliberate. These sightings are brief, often no more than a moment, yet they leave a lasting impression on those who witness them. Walking through the town at night, one feels a subtle energy in the air. The cool wind drifts along the river and through narrow streets, carrying with it the faint scent of history. And the weight of memory. Visitors speak of an almost tangible presence, the sensation of being observed without threat. It is a quiet reminder that Beverly's history is not only preserved in documents and monuments but also in the lingering presence of those who lived through its most turbulent times. The town's landmarks hold stories that amplify the haunting atmosphere. The old courthouse, once the center of civic life, stands solemnly at the heart of Beverly. At night, the shadowed steps seem to host figures moving with purpose, perhaps carrying the echoes of trials and decisions that shaped the town. Further along Main Street, gas lamps cast soft pools of light onto cobblestones, highlighting fleeting glimpses of marching figures or the silhouettes of spectators long gone. Even the natural elements of Beverly contribute to its mysterious aura. Their branches whispering like voices caught in conversation. Where past and present coexist, shaping an experience that is both haunting and captivating. Visitors often speak of the moments when the town is quietest, when the streets are empty and the air still. It is then that the phenomena are most noticeable. Shadows shift at the periphery of vision, footsteps echo without source. And the distant sounds of conflict reach the ears as if replaying the struggles of a time long past. These experiences are never threatening, yet they are deeply affecting. Reminding all who witness them that history is alive in Beverly. Lingering in ways that cannot be explained by logic alone. Beverly's charm lies in its ability to merge the ordinary with the extraordinary. The same streets that host modern life also carry the memory of soldiers, townspeople, and the echoes of battles fought. Lanterns sway in doorways, throwing patterns of light and shadow that seem almost alive. Windows catch reflections that do not correspond to the present. And the rhythm of the town's past seems to follow visitors as they move through familiar streets. Blending the tangible with the intangible. Beverly's charm lies in its ability to merge the ordinary with the extraordinary. Even in the stillness of night, Beverly speaks. Figures march silently along Main Street, disappearing as quickly as they appear. Cannon fire echoes from the past, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the soft gurgle of the river. Every corner, every alleyway, carries a story, an imprint of those who walked before. Visitors leave with a heightened awareness of the town's layered history, feeling the presence of the past in a way that is both subtle and profound. The experience of Beverly is cinematic in its unfolding. Each step along its streets is accompanied by the sense of being watched by history itself. Figures in period uniforms, sounds of conflict, and shadows in the corners of vision combine to create a narrative that exists beyond ordinary perception. The town becomes a living museum, where the past is not confined to plaques or books but moves silently among the present, inviting those who walk its streets to witness, reflect, and feel the resonance of a bygone era. Beverly reminds visitors that history is not only written but also remembered. Figures appear, footsteps echo, and cannon fire resonates in the distance, leaving an indelible impression of a town where the past is never truly gone. Beverly is a place where time folds upon itself, offering mysterious, engaging, and deeply moving, leaving those who visit with a sense of wonder and a lasting connection to the stories that shaped it. Charlestown sits quietly among rolling hills and tree-lined streets, a place where history lingers in the architecture and in the air itself. The town is dotted with old estates and grand homes, many of which have seen generations of families pass through their doors. Their walls hold stories of celebrations, losses, and secrets, and some say that these stories do not end with the living. As night falls, the atmosphere changes. Shadows stretch across the streets, cast by the dim glow of lamps and the occasional flicker of candlelight in the older houses. Figures are sometimes seen near windows, standing motionless before vanishing as if they were never there. Passers-by have described fleeting glimpses of these silhouettes, their presence felt more than seen, leaving a sense of being watched or followed through the quiet streets. Inside the estates, the experience is equally haunting. Visitors report the faint sound of music drifting through empty halls, the strains of a piano or the soft rhythm of a waltz echoing from rooms long abandoned. Some hear the subtle sound of dancing, the shuffle of feet on polished floors, yet when they investigate, no one is present. It is as if the past continues to replay, moments frozen in time yet alive to those willing to listen. The architecture of Charlestown adds to its eerie charm. Grand staircases spiral upward, adorned with intricate railings. Long corridors stretch between rooms, each filled with the scent of aged wood and worn carpets. Windows reflect more than the current surroundings, sometimes showing figures standing silently or turning to watch the living move about the estate. The effect is subtle, but unmistakable, a quiet reminder that the town's history remains palpable. Even during the day, the feeling of history lingers. Gardens that were once meticulously cared for now show signs of nature reclaiming its space. And the old stone pathways echo with the footsteps of visitors, blending with the imagined footsteps of those who walked them centuries ago. The interplay between the visible and the invisible creates a tension that is both inviting and unsettling, drawing people deeper into the stories embedded in the town. Local accounts speak of lights that flicker without cause, rooms that grow inexplicably cold, and doors that open or close on their own. Some visitors have felt a presence nearby, a brush of air or a subtle shift in the environment. That suggests they are not alone. These experiences are never violent or threatening, but they carry a weight of history and memory that is difficult to ignore. The estates themselves are varied in style and age. Some are simple, with weathered wooden siding and shuttered windows, while others are elaborate, with tall columns and sweeping verandas. Regardless of their appearance, many share a common trait. Furniture left in place, portraits on walls, and chandeliers swaying, serving as reminders that the past has a way of remaining present. Exploring these homes often brings a mixture of awe and unease. The sound of faint music seems to follow visitors from room to room, growing louder in some areas and fading in others, creating an immersive, almost cinematic experience. Shadowy forms are observed in corners or reflected in mirrors, disappearing when approached. The sensation is subtle, an almost imperceptible vibration in the air that heightens awareness and draws attention to the history around them. The town's public spaces are equally touched by this atmosphere. Evenings in Charlestown are marked by quiet streets. The occasional lantern swaying in the wind, and the gentle rustle of leaves that seems to mimic whispered conversations. Travelers report seeing figures crossing squares or walking along pathways, only to vanish as they come closer. These experiences contribute to a sense of living history, where the town itself becomes a stage for memories and echoes from the past. Charlestown is a place where time feels layered. The present exists alongside traces of lives that have long since passed. And the line between reality and memory blurs for those willing to explore. Whispers, shadows, and music are not simply reminders of what was. They are threads that connect the living to the town's ongoing story. The energy of the town is subtle yet persistent. Felt in hallways, gardens, and empty streets alike. Even the smallest details add to the immersive experience. A creaking floorboard, a cold draft, or a faint reflection in a window can evoke a sense of presence. That is both eerie and captivating. Visitors are drawn to investigate, to understand, yet there is always the sense that some aspects of Charlestown are meant to remain a mystery. The history of its people and their homes continues to speak, quietly but insistently, to anyone who pauses to listen. Charlestown offers a journey into a world where the past is alive in unexpected ways. Figures seen at windows. Music that drifts through empty halls. And subtle sounds of dancing. All serve as a reminder that history does not simply fade. It lingers in estates, streets, and gardens, shaping the atmosphere. And leaving visitors with a lasting impression of a town where memory and presence coexist. Exploring Charlestown is to engage with a living archive of human experience. Where the echoes of past lives are tangible. The combination of architecture, sound, and unseen presence creates an environment that is at once beautiful, mysterious, and quietly haunting. Visitors leave with more than memories, they carry a sense of connection to the town's history. Aware that in Charlestown, the past is never truly gone. In every estate, along every quiet street, and within the subtle shifts of air and light, Charlestown tells its story. It is a place where figures appear and vanish. Where music and footsteps linger long after the living have departed. And where history is felt as much as it is seen. The town invites exploration, reflection, and a deep appreciation for the unseen layers of life that persist in its haunted spaces. Leaving an impression that resonates far beyond the visit itself. Ronceverte sits quietly along the winding Greenbrier River. A town steeped in history. And shadowed by stories of its past. The river flows steadily. Reflecting the soft glow of streetlights at night. Yet there is an air of unease that permeates. The empty streets and abandoned docks. Time seems to move differently here. As if the town itself is holding on to echoes. Of those who once walked its paths. Visitors often speak of shadowy figures seen near the old warehouses and along the riverfront. These figures move with purpose, yet vanish when approached, leaving only the faint impression of presence behind. The docks, once bustling with boats and commerce, now lie silent, creaking under the weight of wind and age. And it is here that the town's past feels most alive. Abandoned buildings line the streets, their windows dark and lifeless, yet inside there seems to be movement. Some have heard the faint sound of laughter drifting from empty halls. Or the murmur of voices speaking in tones that fade before comprehension. These sounds are subtle, easily dismissed, yet persistent enough to capture attention and evoke a sense of lingering life. The river itself carries memories. Its waters lap gently against the old docks, whispering over rocks and timber. On quiet nights, the reflection of the moon seems to shimmer with shapes that are not entirely natural. Some claim to see figures walking along the riverbank, their forms tall and indistinct, their motions deliberate, as if bound to the patterns of a life long past. Inside the town, the streets twist and narrow, flanked by buildings that speak of a bygone era. Each corner, each alley, seems to conceal a fragment of history. Footsteps echo where no one walks. And doors swing open with no wind. The air is thick with anticipation. A tension that both unsettles and captivates. Visitors cannot help but feel they are intruding upon a space where the past and present coexist in a delicate balance. Roncevert's warehouses hold their own stories. Empty crates and rusted machinery stand as silent witnesses to the bustling trade that once defined the town. Yet these spaces are not entirely empty. Shadows flit across walls, sometimes human in shape, sometimes distorted by the dim light. Whispers of voices emerge from corners, low and hesitant, often repeating names or phrases that seem familiar yet impossible to place. The docks, stretching into the Greenbrier River, have their own spectral residents. Figures appear near the water's edge, sometimes bending over as if to inspect a mooring rope. Other times pacing slowly along the wooden planks. Those who have lingered too long report sudden chills, a sense of being watched. And the fleeting touch of a hand brushing against their arm with no visible source. Even the riverbank seemed to play a role in the town's haunting. Mist rises from the water on cool evenings, curling around trees and lampposts, and within this haze, shapes appear and vanish with the movement of the wind. Some have seen shadowy figures walking parallel to the river, never crossing the water but always moving with intention, as if retracing paths from decades long ago. The town's silence amplifies these phenomena. Without the hum of modern life, each sound, each subtle shift of air, becomes magnified. Visitors hear the creak of wood, the distant clatter of unseen footsteps, and the soft sigh of doors that open on their own. The experience is immersive, a slow unraveling of ordinary perception that draws attention to the presence of what cannot be explained. Old streetlights flicker intermittently, casting pools of pale light onto cracked sidewalks. Within these glowing circles, shadows take form and dissolve again. Sometimes resembling human figures. Other times vague and formless. The town seems alive in its own secret way. With a heartbeat that is faint but unmistakable. A rhythm tied to the footsteps of unseen residents. Who continue their routines undisturbed. Visitors often describe a feeling of being guided through the town by invisible hands. Or of being watched from hidden vantage points. Whispers sometimes seem to call their names, drifting along the river or through alleyways. As if the town remembers and acknowledges each new presence. The sensation is not malevolent, but it carries weight, a reminder that history is not entirely past and that those who came before remain in subtle, persistent ways. Old brick walls, weathered siding, and iron railings hint at the people who built and maintained them. Shadows interact with these structures, sometimes pausing at doorways, sometimes moving across windows, and always leaving a sense of mystery in their wake. Even the most familiar corners appear different at night, transformed by the combination of moonlight, mist, and lingering energy. As night deepens, the Greenbrier River mirrors the shifting sky, reflecting the subtle glow of lanterns that may or may not exist. Faint laughter and hushed voices drift across the water, blending with the rustle of leaves and the whisper of the wind, leaving visitors with curiosity and awe. To walk through Roncevert is to step into a living memory. Each abandoned warehouse, each empty dock, and each narrow street carries echoes of a town that was once vibrant. And that history is alive not only in records and photographs but in the very air and atmosphere of the town itself. Roncevert endures as a space where past and present meet. Where shadowy figures and faint sounds offer a bridge between memory and experience. Those who wander its streets at night encounter a subtle, immersive haunting. An invitation to witness a place where the living and the unseen coexist. Every step along the river, every echo in the warehouses, serves as a testament to the town's enduring presence. And the mysteries that continue to linger along the Greenbrier. Bluefield sits quietly among the hills, a town shaped by coal and industry, where the echoes of a bygone era linger in the streets. Once bustling with miners and their families, the town now carries the weight of its history in every abandoned building and silent alleyway. The air seems thick with memories, and for those who wander its streets after dark, the past feels remarkably close. Visitors often speak of figures appearing along the old roadways and alleyways. Shadows take the shape of men in work clothes, moving with purpose, their forms solid enough to cast fleeting impressions on the ground. Sometimes glancing toward those who watch, only to vanish before contact is made. The effect is subtle yet undeniable, a quiet reminder of the labor and life that once defined Bluefield. The town's industrial past contributes to the haunting atmosphere. Tools seem to operate on their own, tapping and clanging in empty workshops, as if unseen hands continue to tend to unfinished work. These occurrences are not violent or threatening, yet they stir a deep awareness of a presence that refuses to fade entirely. Walking the streets, one notices the details that bring the past to life. Wooden buildings lean slightly, their paint worn and peeling, yet their structures hold stories within the walls. Sidewalks are cracked and uneven, bearing the marks of countless footsteps that have long since disappeared. The windows of abandoned homes reflect moonlight in a way that makes shadows dance and shift, creating an environment where the ordinary and the spectral seem to intersect. Alleyways offer their own mysteries. Narrow and winding, they carry sounds that seem amplified in the quiet night. Footsteps echo even when no one is present. And the rustle of wind through old signage and broken glass takes on an almost conversational tone. Figures appear at the far end, silent and watchful, pausing to observe before disappearing into darkness. The combination of sight, sound, and sensation makes every visit to Bluefield a unique experience. The hills surrounding the town enhance its eerie presence. At twilight, the sun casts long shadows that stretch across the streets, blending natural light with the subtle movements of the unseen. Glimpses of figures along the rooftops or moving between buildings can appear as mere tricks of perception, yet repeated accounts suggest a consistent pattern of activity. Each shadow seems connected to the town's history, a living memory of those who once worked tirelessly to shape the community. Sounds are particularly impactful in Bluefield. The wind carries soft whispers, the clink of metal, and the distant hum of abandoned machinery. These auditory cues often arrive unexpectedly. Even familiar noises take on a new significance, echoing in empty spaces and forming a dialogue between the present and the past. The ghostly figures are not confined to a single area. They appear along the main streets, and even at the edges of the town where nature has begun to reclaim the land. Their presence feels intentional, as if they move with a rhythm tied to the memory of labor and community that once thrived here. Visitors report feeling watched, yet never threatened, as though the spirits wish only to be acknowledged and remembered. Abandoned houses and stores hold remnants of a life that was once vibrant. Faded signs, rusted tools, and old furniture create an atmosphere heavy with history. Shadows move past these remnants, and faint silhouettes are sometimes seen peering from windows. The town itself becomes a stage where past and present coexist, inviting exploration while preserving the memory of those who came before. At night, Bluefield transforms. The quiet streets, dimly lit by flickering streetlights, enhance the spectral presence. Figures move deliberately, and the sounds of the posta whistles, tapping, distant conversations fill the air. The hills and alleyways frame the town like a living portrait, emphasizing the contrast between abandoned spaces and lingering activity. This is the end of the script. Despite the eerie sensations, Bluefield remains a place of beauty. The surrounding landscape offers sweeping views that remind visitors of the town's connection to the natural world. The interplay of light, shadow, and the unseen creates a cinematic experience that draws people back again and again, each visit revealing new mysteries. The presence of spirits in Bluefield is subtle but persistent. They do not chase or frighten but exist as reminders of the lives that shape the town. Their appearances and sound suggest continuity, a bridge between what was and what remains. Every corner, alley, and street has a story, and the spectral activity ensures that the town's past is never forgotten. For those who walk the streets of Bluefield after dark, the experience is immersive and unforgettable. Figures appear and vanish, whistles echo across empty alleys, and tools tap and clatter as if tended by unseen hands. The town speaks quietly yet insistently, telling the story of labor, life, and memory. Bluefield remains alive in this way, a place where history is palpable and the echoes of the past are never truly silent. In every shadow, every faint sound, and every movement along the streets, Bluefield tells its story. The coal town, once vibrant with industry, now thrives in memory and presence. Visitors leave with a sense of having witnessed something beyond the ordinary. A place where the living and the past converge to create a haunting, unforgettable experience. Point Pleasant rests along the Ohio River, a town that appears calm by day yet transforms as dusk falls. Shadows stretch across streets and fields, and an uneasy stillness settles over the landscape. The town is famous for the legends of a mysterious creature that has captured the imagination of locals and visitors alike. Sightings of shadowy humanoid figures with glowing eyes have been reported for decades, leaving an indelible mark on the town's identity and history. Evenings in Point Pleasant carry a peculiar energy. The air thickens with anticipation as darkness deepens, and the river reflects the dim light of the setting sun in rippling patterns. Locals often recall moments when a fleeting figure appeared at the edge of the woods or near the old bridge, its eyes bright and unblinking, before vanishing without a trace, leaving only the whisper of wind through the trees. The legend of Mothman is intertwined with the town's landscape. Visitors recount the sensation of being followed, a brush of unseen wings in the night, and faint whispers that seem to warn them to flee. These experiences are subtle, never violent, yet they leave a profound impression. A lingering tension that cannot be easily explained. The bridge itself is central to the lore. Its skeletal structure, once a lifeline connecting the town, has been the scene of eerie accounts. Figures have been seen along its beams, perched and observing, before disappearing into darkness. The wind carries a faint rustling, sometimes resembling the flutter of massive wings. And the sounds echo across the river, amplifying the atmosphere of suspense. Even when the bridge is empty, the sensation of presence remains. As though the town remembers the creature that many have claimed to see. Walking through the town at night, the senses are heightened. Shadows shift unnaturally, and the outlines of familiar objects seem to bend at the edges of perception. Lights from homes and street lamps reflect in unexpected ways, giving the impression of movement where none exists. Visitors often describe a feeling of being watched, a tension that grows with each step along the riverbank or through the woods that border the town. The experience is immersive, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and fascination. The forests surrounding Point Pleasant are dense, and pathways that appear empty during the day take on a different character after sunset. Shapes emerge and recede with the interplay of moonlight and shadow. Visitors report fleeting glimpses of tall, humanoid forms with wings folded against their backs, or eyes that glow like embers in the dark. The figures move with unnatural speed, appearing and disappearing, leaving a trail of uncertainty and awe. The air carries a chill, and every sound is amplified. From the snap of a twig to the distant call of an owl. Beyond the physical sightings, Point Pleasant resonates with stories passed down through generations. Accounts of unusual occurrences often coincide with moments of tension and anxiety in the town, creating a sense of connection between the legend and the community's collective memory. Visitors frequently share experiences of hearing faint, indecipherable whispers, sometimes urgent in tone, sometimes almost mournful. These moments, though brief, contribute to the feeling that the town is not merely haunted by a legend but inhabited by it. The river adds to the town's enigmatic atmosphere. Its surface, calm in some places and turbulent in others, reflects shapes and shadows that seem to belong to no one. Figures are occasionally seen along the waterline, standing perfectly still before vanishing into thin air. The effect is disorienting and compelling, drawing attention to the thin boundary between reality and the stories that thrive in the night. Even the architecture of Point Pleasant contributes to the sense of unease. Old factories, warehouses, and residential homes with worn facades create pockets of darkness and concealment. Figures have been reported in alleyways and behind windows, visible only for a moment before fading from sight. The combination of town structures and natural features produces a layered environment where perception and legend overlap, leaving visitors unsure of what is real and what is imagined. The legend of Mothman is more than a series of sightings. It has become part of Point Pleasant's identity. Festivals, museums, and local guides keep the story alive. Yet the most compelling experiences happen outside organized tours. Those who explore the outskirts at night, near the river, bridge, or wooded areas, often recount sensations that cannot be explained by logic. The feeling of being observed, the distant flapping of wings, the sudden shifts in temperature, and the occasional flash of luminous eyes, all contribute to an immersive experience that engages both mind and senses. The feeling of being observed, the distant flapping of wings, the sudden shifts in temperature, and the occasional flash of luminous eyes. Point Pleasant is a town where past and present coexist in subtle, unsettling ways. Each shadow, each whisper, each fleeting figure seems to tell a story of a presence that is patient, watchful, and ever-present. Visitors leave with memories that linger, a sense of having touched something beyond ordinary perception. The legend of Mothman continues to shape the town, offering a mixture of fear, intrigue, and fascination, making Point Pleasant a place where the extraordinary seeps into the everyday, and where the boundary between myth and reality remains hauntingly thin. The experience of visiting Point Pleasant is cinematic, unfolding with tension, curiosity, and an unshakable connection to the unknown. The town's streets, riverbanks, and forests offer glimpses of the unseen. Moments where imagination meets legend in ways that are tangible and unforgettable. Figures appear and vanish, whispers echo in the night, and the air carries the promise of something just beyond sight. Point Pleasant is a place where stories live, shadows move, and the mysterious continues to captivate all who walk its quiet streets. Elkins sits quietly amid rolling hills and dense forests. A town shaped by the legacy of logging and the railroad. The scent of pine lingers in the air, mingling with the faint smell of iron and oil from abandoned tracks. Time seems to move differently here, as if the town itself holds onto the echoes of its past, waiting for those who wander its streets and trails to notice. Along the old railroad stations, travelers have reported fleeting glimpses of figures standing near the platforms. They appear in the corners of vision, silent and still, before vanishing when observed directly. Some say the presence is fleeting yet unmistakable, A whisper of the laborers and travelers who once depended on the trains to carry goods and people through the hills. The forested trails surrounding Elkins carry a similar weight of memory. Shadows stretch long between towering trees, and the undergrowth rustles as if stirred by unseen footsteps. Visitors have described sudden drops in temperature, moments when the air chills without warning, sending shivers through the spine. Along these paths, faint footsteps echo in the stillness, trailing behind those who walk alone, yet there is no one to be seen. Old logging sites and abandoned cabins hold their own stories. The rasp of saws cutting through timber, and the hammering of spikes into wood, may be imagined, yet they leave an impression as real as the buildings themselves. Railroad tracks weave through the town and the surrounding forests, often hidden beneath fallen leaves and overgrown grass. At night, the tracks seem to hum softly, resonating with the memory of trains that once carried timber, coal, and passengers through the region. Some travelers have heard the distant whistle of a train that has not run for decades. A lonely note carried across empty fields, accompanied by the rhythmic clatter of phantom wheels. The town itself holds a quiet beauty, framed by hills and misty valleys. Streets are lined with old brick buildings and wooden houses, some abandoned, others carefully maintained by families who have lived here for generations. Windows reflect movement that is not there, curtains fluttering despite closed panes, and doors creak without wind. These subtle signs serve as reminders that history lingers in Elkins, alive in ways that cannot always be explained. Even during daylight, the town retains a sense of presence that is difficult to ignore. A shadow crosses a path too quickly to belong to any passerby, or a sudden chill passes through a room where the sun streams in warmly. Photographs, tools, and furniture left undisturbed carry the energy of those who once used them, bridging the gap between past and present. Visitors often feel watched, though no eyes are visible, a sensation both unsettling and fascinating. The trails beyond the town are equally compelling, then disappearing into the foliage. Moments of sound that vanish as soon as attention is given. Railroad depots and warehouses speak to the industrious spirit that once dominated Elkins. In the quiet hours of dawn or dusk, these spaces are filled with an almost tangible presence. Steps echo across empty floors, shadows flicker along walls, and the faint hum of machinery seems to come alive briefly, only to fade into silence. Visitors often remark on the town's dual nature. It is at once inviting and haunting, picturesque yet filled with unseen watchers. The experience of walking its streets, exploring its forests, and standing near its abandoned stations evokes a deep connection to history. Time feels layered, with the present intersecting with echoes of the past, creating a cinematic, immersive atmosphere that draws people in. Elkins is a town where stories are written into the very landscape. Each abandoned trail, forgotten building, and old railway track holds a memory. A fragment of life that persists long after the living have gone. The town teaches visitors to listen and observe carefully. To notice the subtle cues of presence in a world that seems frozen in both time and memory. Every corner, every shadow, and every faint sound contributes to the town's narrative. Figures appearing and vanishing, whispers carried on the wind, and sudden chills all remind visitors that Elkins is more than a town of history, it is a place where the past continues to inhabit the spaces of the present. Exploring Elkins is to step into a story that is ongoing, layered, and quietly alive. From forested trails to old stations, from abandoned logging sites to silent streets. Elkins offers an experience that is immersive, haunting, and memorable. Visitors leave with a sense of having touched something beyond the visible. Aware that the town is not merely a collection of buildings and paths, but a living archive of presence, memory, and enduring history. Madison sits quietly amid rolling hills, a town shaped by its mining past. The roads wind through dense forests and abandoned settlements, where remnants of old mining operations still cling to the landscape. Wooden structures lean precariously, their faded paint peeling under decades of wind and rain. At night, the air seems heavier, charged with the weight of memories that refuse to fade. Visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures along these old paths. Miners in worn clothing appear and vanish, their movements deliberate as if continuing work long after life has left them. Some pause at rusted equipment, bent over imaginary shafts, while others linger near crumbling cabins, observing unseen observers with quiet persistence. The roads of Madison are often deserted after dusk. Yet the sounds of the past find their way through the night. Faint clangs echo through the hills, the rhythm of pickaxes striking rock. Muffled cries drift on the wind, voices suspended between despair and unfinished labor. The experience is subtle but undeniable, as if the town itself carries the echoes of lives devoted to the earth. Abandoned mines dot the landscape, their entrances dark and foreboding. The air near these openings feels colder, heavier, as if the weight of countless untold stories gathers there. Some visitors describe the sensation of unseen hands brushing past, or the brief impression of eyes watching from the shadows. The darkness inside the shaft seems alive, almost aware of each step taken along the creaking wooden beams and rocky trails. Along the old roads, lanterns sometimes appear where none have been placed, their glow faint and flickering. They move slowly, drifting across the path before disappearing into the night. Figures have been seen following these lights, moving in silence along the curves of the terrain. There is a rhythm to their presence, as if bound to the routines and rituals of a life long ended but not forgotten. Even the wind seems to carry memories in Madison. The rustle of leaves can sound like footsteps, moving in time with the unseen workers who once traversed these paths daily. Every creak, every sigh of the landscape, seems infused with a lingering energy that resists being ignored. The town's abandoned settlements tell stories through their decay. Shattered glass, rusted tools, and crumbling walls speak to the industrious lives that once filled these spaces. Shadows flit along the perimeters of buildings, pausing at doorways or windows, then fading into darkness. The presence is subtle, never aggressive, but impossible to overlook for those who walk the town at night. The miners' spirits seem particularly drawn to the old roads that lead to forgotten shafts and collapsed tunnels. Figures can appear suddenly, walking parallel to visitors before vanishing behind trees or structures. Sometimes, the air is punctuated by the echo of tools striking rock, each sound carrying the weight of exhaustion, hope, and toil. These phantom workers continue their labor in silence, invisible but undeniably present. Visitors report a mixture of fascination and unease. There is an overwhelming sense of history held in the air, a feeling that every stone, timber, and tool has absorbed fragments of life. The shadows move with intent, the whispers and clanging echo through time. And the town itself becomes a bridge between the living and the past. Even open fields bear the imprint of Madison's history. Paths that once guided miners to work now carry wandering silhouettes, slow and deliberate. Mist settles over low-lying areas, shaping itself into forms that seem almost human. Observers have reported seeing figures crouching near rocks, adjusting imaginary equipment, or pausing to look at the moonlit horizon as though reflecting on work long completed. The abandoned cabins offer their own spectral encounters. Windows are often opaque with dust, yet shadowy forms can be glimpsed inside, moving as if tending to invisible tasks. Doors creak open despite the absence of wind. And faint voices carry through rooms that are otherwise silent. The combination of sound, shadow, and sensation immerses visitors in a living memory of a town that refuses to be forgotten. Night in Madison brings a heightened awareness of the unseen. The subtle movements, the echoes of tools, and the occasional mist of spectral light all contribute to an atmosphere thick with history. It is not frightening in a direct sense, but profoundly affecting, a reminder of human endeavor, tragedy, and resilience. Walking through Madison. Visitors cannot escape the feeling of being observed by unseen eyes, accompanied by the echoes of footsteps that are not their own. The town becomes a living testament to the people who once shaped it. A place where the line between present and past blurs, and where shadows of labor, loss, and persistence continue to walk the roads long after the miners themselves have gone. Madison endures as a quiet monument to its past. The mines, roads, and abandoned structures are vessels of memory, carrying the energy of those who lived, worked, and sometimes perished within their bounds. For those who wander through the town at night, the experience is immersive, a vivid connection to history, and a haunting reminder that some presences remain, walking alongside the living in the stillness of night. Kaiser rests quietly on a hillside, a town that seems almost frozen in time. Streets wind gently between old homes and weathered buildings, their exteriors worn by years of wind and rain. The town carries a calm presence during the day, yet as dusk falls, the atmosphere shifts subtly, hinting at the presence of something unseen. Visitors walking the streets at this hour often sense more than the natural beauty surrounding them. They appear as silhouettes at first, walking with purpose or standing still as if observing the town from another time. When approached, they vanish into the night, leaving only the impression that the past is quietly alive here. The town's architecture adds to its mysterious aura. Wooden porches sag slightly under the weight of time. And windows, some cracked or clouded, reflect the fading light in ways that can make shadows appear more distinct. Street lamps flicker with an irregular rhythm, casting pools of light that illuminate the path while leaving corners deep in darkness. The contrast between light and shadow seems to invite the unseen to make itself known. Doors along the streets and in old buildings often behave oddly. Visitors report them opening and closing without any visible cause. A gentle push, a soft click, or a sudden slam can break the stillness, echoing through hallways and empty rooms. These occurrences are not violent or threatening, but suggest that some Ania or something remains in the spaces long after the living have left. Sounds in Kaiser carry in unexpected ways. The wind whispers through narrow alleys, creating the illusion of voices moving with it. Wooden steps creak on porches when no one is walking, and faint footsteps echo along deserted roads. These subtle auditory signs of activity heighten the sense that the town is alive with memories. And the boundary between the past and the present becomes almost imperceptible. Even the surrounding hills contribute to the town's presence. As the sun sets, mist begins to settle along the slopes, curling around trees and abandoned structures. The landscape becomes both beautiful and eerie, framing the town in a soft, otherworldly glow. Figures are sometimes seen along the edges of the hills, moving in and out of the fog, their forms blurred yet undeniably there. The town's history seems to linger in its spaces. Every building, street, and alley carries the weight of countless lives that have passed through. Visitors report glimpses of people dressed in older attire, walking as if fulfilling routines from decades gone by. The experience is never frightening but carries a strange poignancy, a feeling that the town itself preserves the memory of those who once called it home. In homes and shops, remnants of daily life add to the haunting presence. Faded photographs, rusted tools, and worn furniture hint at the stories that unfolded within these walls. Visitors sometimes feel a presence nearby, a subtle touch on the shoulder, or the sensation of being watched as they move through rooms. The effect is both chilling and intimate, creating a connection between the living and the town's enduring spirits. Night brings its own rhythm to Kaiser. Streetlights create small islands of illumination among larger stretches of darkness. Mist rises from the hills and settles in low spots, wrapping the town in a veil of uncertainty. Figures continue to move silently, sometimes appearing at the far end of a street before disappearing completely. The wind carries faint, almost melodic sounds, perhaps echoes of conversations, footsteps, or distant activity that no longer exists in the material world. The town invites careful exploration. Walking along the narrow roads and quiet alleys, visitors notice how sound, light, and shadow interact to create an atmosphere that is immersive and layered. The occasional sighting of a figure or the unexpected movement of a door reminds visitors that Kaiser is more than a static town. It is a repository of memory, a living archive of human presence that continues to manifest in subtle, mysterious ways. Figures often appear in clusters or individually, moving with purpose but never acknowledging the living. They are present yet unreachable, suggesting that the town maintains its own rhythm, independent of the modern world. These glimpses leave a lasting impression, a quiet awareness that the town holds stories that are still being told in its own way. Sounds accompany these sights with a haunting clarity. Steps on wooden floors, the creak of a swinging gate, or the soft echo of a door opening all hint at activity in spaces thought to be empty. These auditory cues interact with the visuals to create a cinematic experience, one that draws visitors deeper into the town's history and the unseen threads that connect past and present. Hillsides and rooftops offer vantage points where the interplay of light, shadow, and mist can be observed. Figures appear along these natural frames, sometimes pausing before continuing on their silent paths. The effect is one of a town alive with the echoes of its inhabitants, a place where memory takes physical form and the boundaries of time seem to blur. In every corner, Kaiser reveals layers of history and presence. A simple walk through the streets becomes an exploration of the town's past, mediated through faint sounds, shifting shadows, and occasional glimpses of figures from another era. The town itself acts as both setting and character, guiding visitors through a narrative that is subtle, immersive, and unforgettable. Even in stillness, Kaiser communicates. Doors that open and close, shadows that move along streets, and whispers carried by the night wind all contribute to a sense of continuity. Visitors leave with a heightened awareness of the town's enduring presence. An understanding that Kaiser is more than a place, it is a living testament to the people and stories that continue to inhabit its streets and alleys. Kaiser stands quietly on the hillside, a town at once ordinary and extraordinary. Figures walking at dusk, doors that move on their own, and the constant interplay of light and shadow create a setting rich with history and mystery. Visitors come seeking the unusual and leave carrying the memory of a town that preserves its past in ways that are both subtle and powerful. A place where the echoes of those who came before are never truly gone. Grafton rests quietly along the river, a town where history lingers in every shadow. Its streets are lined with weathered buildings, and the air carries a stillness that hints at the stories of those who came before. Historic cemeteries sit at the edge of town, their gravestones worn by time and the elements. Abandoned railroads stretch into the distance, their tracks twisted and silent, yet they seem to hum with memory. As night falls, Grafton takes on a different character. Shadows lengthen across the streets, merging with the silhouettes of trees and buildings. In the cemeteries, figures have been reported moving silently among the gravestones, their forms fleeting and insubstantial. Visitors often speak of an uneasy feeling, a sense of being watched as they navigate the paths. The wind carries a whisper, faint and unintelligible, yet unmistakably present, as if the town itself is speaking in hushed tones. The railroads add another layer to the town's enigmatic atmosphere. Tracks that were once lifelines now lie in disrepair, surrounded by tall grass and rusting signals. Shadowy forms are seen walking along these paths, appearing and disappearing with no apparent cause. The sensation of presence is heightened here, where the echoes of the past seem to cling to every rail and sleeper. Some visitors describe hearing the faint sound of a train, its whistle distant and hollow, as though it is coming from another time entirely. Grafton's cemeteries tell stories in their stillness. Moss-covered stones bear names from centuries past, marking lives that are long gone yet still remembered in the air. Figures are often glimpsed standing near these gravestones, motionless for a moment before fading into darkness. The effect is subtle but profound, leaving a lingering impression that the past is never fully absent. Soft singing has been reported, drifting through the night like a memory carried on the wind. It is never loud, never intrusive, yet it evokes a sense of solemnity and connection to lives once lived. Walking through the town, visitors notice small details that enhance the sense of mystery. Light falls unevenly across the streets, casting shapes that seem to move just at the edge of vision. Doors of abandoned homes shift with the wind, producing noises that resemble footsteps, yet when looked upon, the spaces are empty. The combination of sound, shadow, and the sense of presence creates an immersive experience, drawing attention to the layers of history that surround every corner of Grafton. The railroads themselves are steeped in stories of travel, commerce, and tragedy. Long before abandonment, trains carried passengers and freight, their rhythms marking the heartbeat of the town. Now, the echo of these movements lingers. Some have reported figures walking alongside the tracks, appearing as they would have a century ago, their movements deliberate and purposeful. The sight is fleeting, often gone before fully perceived, leaving only the memory of motion and the sense that something unseen has passed through. Evenings are particularly atmospheric. The light fades, leaving the town bathed in a soft, gray twilight. In this half-light, gravestones, fences, and trees cast elongated shadows that seem to stretch and breathe. Occasionally, faint singing rises and falls across the cemetery grounds, melancholy and beautiful, as though the past is offering a greeting. Visitors often pause, uncertain if what they hear is real or imagined, yet the feeling of connection is undeniable. Grafton's abandoned buildings contribute to the sense of otherworldliness. Windows are dark and empty, yet reflections catch shapes that appear briefly before vanishing. Doorways lead into silence. And the faint creak of hinges suggests movement where none exists. These subtle phenomena create a pervasive tension, one that is never frightening in a sudden way but lingers in the mind, drawing attention to the unseen forces that seem to inhabit the town. The cemeteries and railroads are connected by more than geography. Both are spaces of memory, places where the past seems present. And where the living are invited to witness echoes of history. Shadowy figures near gravestones. Forms along the rails. And the gentle sound of song all reinforce a sense that Grafton is a town in dialogue with itself. A place where time is layered. And the ordinary is infused with the extraordinary. Visitors leave with impressions that linger. A sense of mystery that cannot be fully explained. And a heightened awareness of the stories that permeate the town. Night in Grafton is immersive. The air is cool, carrying scents of earth and river, and the silence is punctuated by sounds that hint at unseen life. Whispers echo along empty streets, shadows move where no one stands, and figures along the railroads and in cemeteries appear and vanish, leaving a quiet awe. The town invites exploration, yet it also reminds those who wander that some mysteries are meant to be observed, not solved. Grafton is a place where history, memory, and the unseen converge. Its streets, railroads, and cemeteries offer an experience that is both cinematic and reflective. Figures appear along tracks and near gravestones, whispers carry across the night. And faint singing drifts through the air. The town holds stories in its every corner, inviting visitors to walk among shadows. Listen to the echoes, and feel the presence of the past lingering in the present. Exploring Grafton is an encounter with both history and legend. The town's abandoned spaces, silent streets, and shadowed cemeteries create an atmosphere. And shadowed cemeteries create an atmosphere where imagination and reality intertwine. Visitors leave with memories of fleeting figures, whispered sounds. And the unmistakable impression that Grafton is alive in ways that are subtle, profound, and unforgettable. The experience is immersive, captivating, and haunting, offering a glimpse into a town where the past never truly rests. Hinton rests quietly along the banks of the New River, a town shaped by the ebb and flow of its waters and the history that clings to its streets. The river carves a path through the landscape, reflecting sunlight by day and moonlight by night, its surface seeming calm yet holding secrets beneath. The town itself is small, lined with old brick buildings and wooden homes, each with a story etched into its walls, doors, and windows. Visitors often speak of a presence along the empty bridges that span the river. Figures appear at the edges, motionless yet unmistakably human in form. They linger for moments, sometimes just beyond the reach of the eye, and vanish as one approaches. The experience is subtle but powerful, a reminder that the river has borne witness to countless lives, stories, and untold events that continue to echo in the present. At night, the new river becomes a stage for strange and haunting phenomena. Lights, faint and glowing, float along the water, drifting in patterns that seem deliberate. Some witnesses have followed these lights, tracing their movement as if the river itself guides them, only to find the lights vanish without warning. The source is never revealed, leaving a lingering sense of wonder and unease. The town streets are often quiet, yet there is a rhythm to the silence. A creak of a board, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, or the distant lap of water against the riverbank can feel amplified, as though the town is aware of every step taken upon it. Shadows stretch long across buildings and alleyways, sometimes revealing forms that disappear when observed directly. These fleeting moments offer a glimpse into Hinton's hidden layers, a place where history and memory intertwine. Walkers along the riverbank have reported sudden drops in temperature, chills that arise without wind or reason. These moments are accompanied by a sensation of being observed, of someone or something moving just beyond perception. At times, soft whispers seem to drift on the air, carried from one side of the river to the other, faint enough to be nearly imperceptible yet undeniable to those who listen closely. The old bridges, once bustling with traffic and footfalls, now stand as silent sentinels over the water. Steps resound where no one walks, and the faint murmur of voices threads through the air, as if the bridge remembers those who once used it. Along the riverbank, vegetation grows thick, forming corridors where light and shadow intermingle. Figures have been seen moving within these corridors, appearing and disappearing among trees and undergrowth. Their presence is subtle, often noticed only out of the corner of the eye, yet it leaves a lasting impression. The river seems to respond to these apparitions, rippling gently even in the absence of wind, reflecting the strange glow that has become a signature of Hinton at night. Visitors also speak of the old docks and boathouses lining the river. They appear deserted, yet signs of activity linger. Floating lights hover near the edges, casting reflections onto the water, and soft sounds suggest movement where none should exist. Some describe the sense of being watched as they explore these areas, a quiet, constant awareness that accompanies every step. The town of Hinton carries the weight of generations. Its buildings, streets, and bridges are repositories of memory and history. Every creaking floorboard, every shadow, and every ripple in the river contributes to the feeling that the town is alive in ways that are unseen but deeply felt. Even the sounds of nature take on an unusual significance here, as if they echo voices from the past, drawing attention to stories that have not yet been told. The town of Hinton carries the weight of generations. In the early hours before dawn, the town takes on an almost ethereal quality. Mist rises from the river, curling around trees and lampposts, and the glowing lights drift slowly along the water. Bridges and streets appear suspended between worlds, caught between the present and the past. Figures may be glimpsed standing silently at the edges of vision, watching, waiting, and disappearing as quickly as they appear. Hinton is a place where the ordinary meets the extraordinary. It is a town shaped by the river, by history, and by the invisible currents that flow beneath the surface of everyday life. To walk its streets, cross its bridges, and follow the riverbank is to engage with a space that is both real and spectral. A town alive with the memories and presences of those who have come before. Visitors leave Hinton with a sense of having touched something beyond the visible, aware that the town is not merely a collection of buildings and bridges, but a living archive of whispers, shadows, and glowing lights along the river. The experience is immersive, haunting, and unforgettable. Offering a window into a place where history continues to linger, patiently observing, guiding, and waiting for those willing to notice. Every step, every glance, and every sound in Hinton is a reminder that some places carry more than just the weight of their physical structures. They hold the presence of lives once lived, of stories unspoken, and of moments that continue to resonate across time. To witness Hinton is to feel connected to the rhythm of a town that exists both in the present and beyond. A quiet testament to the enduring power of place and memory. Richwood rests quietly among rolling hills and dense forests, a town shaped by its past as a hub of logging activity. The roads wind through towering pines and forgotten paths where the sawdust of decades past still lingers in the soil. Wooden structures, long abandoned, lean precariously, their timbers groaning with the weight of history. At night, the town transforms. Shadows move along hillside roads, fleeting and intangible, yet impossible to ignore. Figures of workers, frozen in mid-stride, appear among the trees before vanishing into the darkness. Their presence is subtle, lingering in peripheral vision, hinting at lives devoted to the forests and the labor that defined Richwood. Visitors often speak of hearing sounds without sources. The distant rasp of saws cutting through timber drifts across empty valleys. Footsteps echo along deserted trails, following paths that no living person has walked for decades. These auditory experiences are haunting, a bridge connecting the present with the echoes of a bustling logging town long gone. The forests themselves seem alive with memory. Branches sway without wind, shadows shift unnaturally. And the air carries an almost tangible weight. As though it holds fragments of conversation, laughter, and commands from long past. Every rustle of leaves or creaking tree trunk can take on the cadence of a worker passing through, blending the natural and supernatural into a seamless experience. Along the old roads, abandoned cabins and shacks offer glimpses into the lives of those who once worked here. Windows are dark and dusty, yet shapes move inside as if tending to invisible tasks. Doors open slowly with no wind, and faint creaks echo as if the weight of unseen bodies presses against the wooden frames. The atmosphere is quiet but heavy, charged with the energy of labor, struggle, and endurance. The hills of Richwood carry more than just shadowy figures. Some visitors have reported a sudden chill as they cross old logging paths. The temperature drops inexplicably, the sensation of unseen eyes following every movement. The cold seems purposeful, almost like a reminder that the past remains present in subtle, insistent ways. Along the rivers where logs were once floated, ripples disturb the otherwise calm surface with no visible cause. Mist rises in the early hours of the morning, taking shape into vague, human forms that drift slowly along the banks, observing the land that shaped them. Lingering where work was once ceaseless and demanding. Even the sounds of the natural world are altered by Richwood's past. Birds pause mid-song. The wind shifts through trees with unusual intent. And the forest floor seems to respond to invisible footsteps. The echoes of saws and hammers reverberate across valleys, carrying a haunting rhythm that seems to mark the passage of time long after the town fell silent. Visitors describe a mixture of awe and unease. Walking through Richwood is like stepping into a layered memory. Every structure, road, and tree holds fragments of life, frozen yet moving in spectral form. Shadows flit among the pines, moving along old logging trails before disappearing behind ancient trunks. There is a quiet persistence to these figures, a sense of unfinished business that resists the passage of time. The abandoned rail lines and storage yards amplify the atmosphere. Rusted carts and decaying wood carry the imprint of heavy labor. Ghostly figures appear along these tracks, pacing with purpose, only to vanish when approached. The rhythm of unseen tools strikes an invisible beat against the night, echoing the determination and toil of those who once kept Richwood alive. Nightfall brings the town fully to life in spectral form. Figures appear along trails, silhouetted against the moonlight filtering through the forest canopy. The distant echo of saws continues, punctuated by occasional footsteps, as if the workers have never truly left. The experience is immersive, blending history and memory into a living presence that lingers with anyone who ventures into the hills. Even open clearings bear the mark of past labor. Stumps and debris speak to the toil of generations, yet shadows seem to move among them. Visitors report fleeting impressions of workers leaning on axes, moving with purpose, then fading into the darkness. The combination of sight, sound, and sensation draws observers into a world where the past refuses to stay buried. Walking through Richwood, it is impossible to ignore the weight of history. Shadows appear along every path, footsteps echo from unseen corners. And the forest hums with memories of labor, struggle, and community. The town is more than a location, it is a living testament to the lives and energy of those who once shaped it. A place where the past walks silently beside the present. Richwood endures as both a memorial and a mystery. The old logging paths, cabins, and rail lines are vessels of memory, carrying the energy of a community that thrived and faded within the forested hills. For those who wander through the town after dark, the experience is vivid and haunting. An encounter with a living history that continues to walk alongside anyone who dares to explore its shadowed roads. Shepherdstown rests quietly along the gentle curves of the river, a town steeped in history and memories that seem to linger long after the present day has moved on. Its streets wind between rows of historic homes, each with weathered brick, tall windows, and doorways that have welcomed countless generations. During the day, the town exudes charm and calm, but as evening approaches, an air of quiet mystery begins to settle over its buildings and alleyways. Visitors who wander through the town often sense that Shepherdstown holds more than simple history. Figures appear briefly in windows or at doorways, silhouettes framed by flickering candlelight or the last rays of the sun. They move with purpose yet vanish when approached, leaving only the echo of their presence and the sense that the past is quietly coexisting with the present. The architecture of Shepherdstown plays a key role in the atmosphere. Tall windows reflect fading light, casting long shadows across cobblestone streets. Narrow alleys lead to courtyards where the air feels cooler, and the silence is punctuated only by the faint rustle of leaves or the distant call of a bird. These subtle sounds give shape to the town's lingering energy, allowing visitors to feel a connection to its history in ways that are almost tangible. Inside the old homes, the sensation of the past is even more pronounced. Visitors often hear the soft strains of music drifting from empty parlors, laughter echoing along hallways, or the gentle murmur of conversations in rooms long unoccupied. The sounds are never overwhelming or frightening, but they create an impression of life persisting beyond the material world. A continuation of the lives once lived here. Doorways and hallways seem to breathe with their own rhythm. Visitors report doors opening and closing on their own, or the faint creak of a floorboard when no one is walking. These small movements hint at a presence that observes without intruding, a reminder that Shepherdstown carries the imprints of its former residents in ways both subtle and profound. Even the streets themselves hold stories. Cobbled paths reflect the glow of lanterns or the moonlight, guiding visitors through a town that feels layered with time. Figures sometimes appear at the far ends of these streets, walking slowly as if retracing old routines. When approached, they fade into the shadows, leaving only the lingering sense that Shepherdstown's history is present and alive. The river that runs alongside the town adds to the sense of continuity. Its gentle flow carries the sounds of the town, mixing with the echoes of footsteps and distant voices. Mist often rises from the water in the cooler hours of the evening, wrapping the streets and buildings in a soft veil. Through this haze, figures are sometimes glimpsed moving along the riverbanks, their forms blurred yet undeniably there, as if time itself has softened their edges. Historic homes hold remnants of daily life that enhance the haunting atmosphere. Faded photographs, antique furniture, and time-worn copyrights hint at stories that unfolded within these walls. Visitors sometimes feel a presence nearby, a gentle brush of air, or the subtle sensation of being watched as they move from room to room. These experiences create an intimate connection between the living and the town's enduring spirits, a dialogue that is quiet yet persistent. The town's alleys and courtyards offer spaces where sounds and shadows combine to create a cinematic experience. Figures may appear briefly at a window, pause at a doorway, or move along a pathway, only to vanish moments later. The interplay of light, shadow, and movement creates an immersive environment where visitors can feel the weight of history and the lingering echoes of those who once lived, worked, and celebrated here. Evenings in Shepherdstown are rich with subtle activity. Soft music drifts from unseen sources, laughter and quiet conversation seem to hang in the air. The occasional flicker of light suggests someone moving within the walls. The town's energy is not threatening but rather poignant, a reminder that life leaves traces that do not disappear entirely, that memory and presence can coexist in delicate balance. Exploring the town, visitors become aware of its layered nature. Each street, building, and window carries hints of the past. Figures appear in fleeting glimpses. Doors move on their own. Sounds echo where no one is present. These details create an immersive narrative, drawing observers into a town that tells its story not through signage or plaques, but through the subtle persistence of memory. The windows and doorways serve as portals, offering glimpses of a time that has long since passed. Figures in traditional or historic attire can be glimpsed, moving about as if continuing routines interrupted by the passage of decades. The experience is never overtly frightening but imbues the town with a quiet, almost reverent energy, a sense that the history of Shepherdstown is tangible and present for those willing to notice. The combination of sound, shadow, and movement gives Shepherdstown a unique character. Figures moving along streets or within homes, faint music, laughter, and the sense of presence in otherwise empty spaces all contribute to an environment that is both mysterious and compelling. Visitors leave with a heightened awareness that the town is alive in ways that defy explanation, a place where history is preserved in motion, sound, and light. Even in stillness, the town communicates. Whispers along hallways. And figures at windows. And the soft echo of footsteps remind visitors that Shepherdstown is more than a collection of buildings. It is a living archive of human experience, where the past continues to interact with the present in subtle, meaningful ways. Shepherdstown rests quietly, a town where history, memory, and presence converge. Its figures at windows, the sounds of music and laughter in empty rooms, and the interplay of shadow and light create a cinematic and immersive experience. Visitors walk its streets carrying the impression that the town itself preserves the lives of those who once lived here, offering a haunting, beautiful, and unforgettable glimpse into a world that continues to exist alongside the modern day. Thank you for joining me on this journey through West Virginia's haunted hillside towns. These settlements remind us that even in the quietest valleys and the steepest hills, the past lingers. Figures walk streets where the living once lived, whispers carry across empty towns, and some spirits never leave. If you ever explore these hills at night, listen carefully, watch the shadows, and remember you may not be alone. Sleep cautiously, my friends, and let the stories of the hills keep your imagination alive long after the night ends.